Chapter 561, Sanguine, One Chaos in Revelan. Just to make it clear, the Sanguine chapters are me venting all my frustration from the finals. You may find things a bit wackier than usual. The myriad realms of revelry, or simply Revelan to those who frequent it, can be considered one of the busiest realms of Oblivion. Aside from Vermina's quagmire, which is visited by those who see nightmares, Revelan has an open invitation for all mortals. A merry place for excessive drinking, gambling, fornicating, murdering, stealing, or simply playing little pranks as long as there's nothing too innocent. The phrase, "What happens Revelan stays in Revelan," was not just a motto, but a firm belief. The worshippers of Sanguine always wanted to prove that their lord isn't as harmless as the cults of Debella, Mara, and Ebenarm claim, and so they have a clear set of values about Sanguine and would usually blame the nature of mortal kind for the influences of how Revelan reacts to its visitors. As mentioned before, Revelan is made of various realms numbering over 100,000 of them. Quite the tedious task to manage all of them, but it is the specialty of Sanguine anyway, and luckily for him, he doesn't have that much control over the realm, thus it is pretty much self-managed. Even if there's a party hosted by any of the Daedric princes here, Sanguine was skilled enough to keep Molag Bal and Bothia away from each other's perception. It is mostly Sheogorath who goes out of control, but he can be cheesed in one realm if kept distracted enough. Malakath is banned, by the way, since the others deemed him too boring and Namara should never know there's a party, or else the other Daedra will simply leave. Nothing good comes from Namara. This is one lengthy handbook on the duties of the Daedra of debauchery, but I'm still not sure what to do with this situation. No, this is only the first volume. Lord Sanguine has taken a lot of notes across the ages. Now that he is not around, there has to be someone able enough who can manage his sphere before it deteriorates more than that. I get it. Revelry, debauchery, and passionate indulgences of darker natures. I am kind of an expert. The thing is, managing a few 100,000 Daedric realms is beyond my mortal capabilities, and look at the place around you. The place was on fire with ogrims and dark seducers fighting each other, while some scamps and bankin were running around shooting magic all over the place. I came here expecting a fight or some sort of grand tournament, but managing this shithole, that needs a lot of effort, woman. John tossed the handbook to the gypsy as he sat behind a large disc dangling rest feet on it. Just a while ago, he was in Whiterun strategizing on how to fix the situation with the absence of Sanguine. He had two of his friends who were considered to be two of the best warriors on Tamriel, as well as his cat, who is still under the effect of catnip, and Barbas, who is still caged. Ha ha, you little bitch. I made you a little bitch. Come over here. I want to hit ya. Nefertiti was lying on top of Barbas' cage, trying to reach him while the dog was lying down to keep away from her. Woof. Leave me alone, you crazy wench. Oh, here, doggo. Not gonna beat ya. Ha ha. Looking at how the high Nefertiti was bullying Barbas, John smiled in a good mood despite how messy the place was turning around him. From the side, both Wulfur and Mirren came after finding no possible solution to stop the fight between the dark seducers and the ogrims. They're just mad at each other, as there is no apparent reason for them to fight. Even the ones I interrogated had no idea how the fight started. Wulfur said, there also seemed to be some sort of a measure that would stop them before they turned the situation into total chaos. That measure is absent for some reason. Mirren added, the dark seducer and the ogrims didn't mix well despite how they serve the same lords in some cases. The dark seducers are basically succubuses with gray purplish skin and glowing fiery eyes, while the ogrims are large dim-witted Daedra with rounded bodies and ugly faces. In Revelan, the dark seducers serve as their names suggest, and the ogrims serve as bouncers where people can actually bounce on. I left some images for those creatures in the comments. Please react by replying and commenting to increase the stats of the book. The common thing between those two parties of Daedra is how skillful they are at controlling fire and how easy things can turn messy when they lose it at each other. Lord Sanguine has kept a few clans of Dremora in his serves to keep the order between the other kinds of Daedra. Gypsy said, And where are those fucks? John asked. They don't listen to anyone if it is not a Daedric prince. You understand. Gypsy said with a wry smile. Sigh. Fucking Draymora. If only I have enough time to make them all like Zykiel. John said as he stood up and looked around him. The mess seemed to be unsolvable. The place they were in was the largest realm of the myriad of realms ruled by Sanguine, and solving the mess would be the fastest way to get it all together. All right, hard way it is. John took out his mask, Krylin, putting it on and donned greed as a large black coat. He even had the ominous weapon, the ebony blade, resting on his shoulder and pride floating behind his back. This appearance is simply very infamous around Oblivion, as it is that of the mortal mercenary known as Krylin, the one who extorted Maroon's Dagon, stole a city from Molag Bal, killed Malakath's champion, defeated Mannimarco, and caused Clavicus Vile to turn into a laughingstock. No one noticed him at first, but he then called for the blessing of Mephala, Golden Tongue, and spoke right away. Enough! Being a voice master, his voice was already very powerful as it is. Adding the blessing of Mephala to it, no one even dared to disobey him with the pressure he emitted. Golden Tongue, blessing of Mephala. Persuasion always works. His voice echoed across the realm, and every Daedra stopped fighting right away. They all looked at him, not really recognizing Krylin at the first instant, but seeing the ebony blade, it wasn't that hard to guess who the owner is. All right, you shits. Who started this fight? John asked. Mortal, this is not your business to inter. John didn't even need to move from his place. The Orgrim who spoke was sliced sideways along with all the other dark seducers and lesser Daedra around him. Say that again. Say that again. You can't, can you? Because you're dead. Oh, what is this? You're a Daedra and you'll revive again? Huh. I dare you. John walked down and started killing any Daedra who looked at him in the eye. I'll ask again. Who started the fight? He looked around and walked between the frozen Daedra before fully unleashing his foul aura. Every Daedra creature in the vicinity started shaking. Their pride as Daedra was always placing them above mortals in their heads, but there is always a mortal who can make the Daedra soil themselves from fear. All right, I won't pursue that subject anymore, John said as he turned away and walked to the party table. This place is a place for partying and having all the dark desires a man can dream of. Now you all started fighting, and the mortals ran away. I was hired to get everyone and everything back in line. And you shall not say yes or no. You shall only say understood, because let's face it, yes and no indicate free will, and that is no longer an option. John acted the role of the charismatic villain and spoke in a made-up tone. You shall fix everything you broke and imprison anyone who goes against my will until I come back. My companions shall keep watch over you until then, and please gather all the necessary materials to get the place up and running in 1 hour. You will take your orders now. But Master Kree, off with your head. The dark seducer that tried to talk back to him was beheaded, and her head started rolling down Raleigh. Who's in charge of the seducer and the Ogrims? John called. Yes, Master Krylin. A matron seducer came forward. Yes, Master. A ball of flesh with a face walked awkwardly to John. Listen up, assholes. I want music, skooma, liquor, strippers, acrobats, a platform over there. Those scamps and Bankin should gather all the colorful magic light sources nearby and pile them here. John said and turned to Gypsy. How many visitors that we should expect? A lot. Gypsy replied. Will this realm alone suffice until we clear up all the other realms? Yes. Good. Put all the resources here for now. You two shall be responsible for any mistake. I'll impale you from your buttholes all the way up to your brains. Understood? Yes. Stupid, lowly Daedra. John turned around and walked away. Gypsy, Nefertiti, we're going to pay a visit to those stupid Draymora and put them in line. With that, the situation started to move forward. John wasn't sure what was going on if he was completely honest, but he needed to resolve the situation for his own sake. Why? His business relies on entertainment and fun. With the Prince of Fun gone, The sphere will weaken within mortal, and John will lose a lot of capital. Also, he was expecting a prize. If not given, he'll just grab anything Sanguine has. Gypsy followed John, and Nefertiti teleported to his shoulder through the shadows. Human, let's go break something. Hee, whatever you desire, John said as he patted her with a mischievous grin. Champion of Azura, after you solve the situation quickly, you should focus on finishing the duties of Lord Sanguine. Gypsy said. What duties are there? John asked. Mainly 3 important tasks: tending the fountain of the true liquor, ravaging the 12 constellations, and hosting in the tournament of the 100 Bloods. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but why is it that everything you just mentioned sounds cooler than the other ones? John didn't dwell furthermore about those matters in order not to spoil anything for himself. He headed towards the stronghold of those Dremora who neglected their duties, intending to beat some sense into them. Meanwhile, Gypsy lagged a bit behind him with a nasty smile, almost betraying her and leaking her thoughts out. While on the other hand, and if not for the mask hiding his face, the nasty smile he had would have been visible to everyone around him. After all, everyone had his agenda in heart. When he arrived at the Dremora stronghold, John found it to be a cave dug in a mountain with a lot of sentinels patrolling it. The Dremora were a kind of Daedra that loved everything to do with armor and steel, even if they were mages. Thus, everyone here was heavily armored in the best armors Oblivion has to offer. Once they sensed some mortals approaching, they became fully alarmed and aimed their spells and arrows at him. Mortals, speak your intentions. A Dremora chieftain headed his clansmen and looked down on John from high ground. John's aura showed more hostility by the second, and he spoke in a voice that caused those around him to feel the extent of his power. My name is Krylin. I manage the realm of your lord on his behest. Your rebellious actions bring you shame, Daedra. He said. On the behest of Lord Sanguine? Don't make me laugh, mortal. Ha ha ha. You already did. The Dremora chieftain tried to act cool, shoot them down. When he ordered his men to do so, Pride flew off John's side and took the highest spot in the field of view. The moment all the arrows and spells rushed towards John, Pride used telekinesis and froze them all midair. The next second, all these spells and arrows were turned around towards whoever shot them. Submit to me, John demanded. Dod! The Dremora chieftain ordered his clansmen to avoid the attacks as they rushed upon their cave. Seeing that John is no joke, they decided to retreat inside their cave in order to regroup and prepare their magic casters. They even turned off the lights to lay ambushes for John if he thinks about following them inside. Resistance is futile. You shall know pain and defeat. John kept his bad guy act and then turned around. Nefertiti, he called. Who calls the Almighty One? She sobered up a little during the journey here, but her act was a little sluggish. Do you see this cave, my adorable companion? In there hide some fools who think that by darkening it from the inside, I won't dare follow them. The nerve, John said and pointed at it. It is your time to shine, sweetheart. Champion, I know your cat is legendary and all, but that's a clan of Dremora we are talking about. Gypsy said. Don't worry about her. Those idiots darkened their cave thinking this will protect them. Just watch. Nefertiti remained in her cat form, without transforming, and simply walked to the cave at her own pace. Once her paws touched the darkness surrounding the cave, she disappeared without a sound. The next second, roar, screams, breaks, wails. One Daedra was running away from the cave, but he stumbled down and was suddenly dragged back inside while screaming. By then, they could hear Nefertiti shouting at someone. Did you really just try to hide from me in the darkness? You think darkness is your ally, but you merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a 1-month-old kitten. By then it was nothing to me but blinding. The shadows betray you because they belong to me. And a few seconds later, Nefertiti walked out of the cave and simply climbed on John until she sat on his shoulder. We're done here, human. John patted her and scratched her neck as he turned out to Gypsy. Now the problem here is over. The Dremora will go back to guarding the place once they revive. Let's go and check our party. Chapter 562, Sanguine. 2 Rocking Oblivion out of Oblivion. Let's get ridiculous. Parties in a myriad realms of revelry with a John Dare brand, where something even a Deidre would pay actual Deidre money to attend. Alright, the party music mix is good for now. Let's sort out the rest of this mess. John stood on the platform which was established by his orders. I want the instruments here. The 2 Mazkin over there. You'll be controlling the music spell. Make the crowd board, and I'll transfer you to Cold Harbor. The 2 Mazkin had shivers running through their spines as they started maintaining the spell/riding the DJ, which John created. I want the crowd entertained. John said, Master Krylin, we have no crowd. A Mazkin just second before she receives the killing state of John. What do you call those 2 fine gentlemen over here? John pointed at Wolfer and Mirren. Oh, the honored guests. Of course. All right, everyone. We have music at last. We need lighting, drinks, drugs, and fireworks. That's just the start, people. Put your hearts into it. Do you really want the others to say that Malakath can party better than us? Chop chop. John's idea of a party was fundamentally different from anything anyone would expect. He wants disco music, fireworks, booze, strippers, and everything that would be befitting of a place such as Revelan. The Dark Seducers, or the Mazkin, were very attractive, and they would always go along with mortals. John put them on the music spell he created, and then started hanging the scamps on high scaffolding, giving them all the glowing magic stones, and telling them to move them chaotically around. The Bankin kept an eye on the scamps, zapping them with lightning whenever they stopped. It didn't end here. John made a number of 4 circular bars across the open area in order to serve the crowd, which is being hoarded by the Dremora at the moment from all across the myriad realms. To make things extra more interesting, he installed poles around the stage and forced the Mazkin to figure out how to dance on them, which they learned almost instantly, as if pole dancing was some second nature to them. He even dangled down some cages and made some Mazkin strippers dance into them. The music got louder, and the bars were packed with all sorts of liquors and booze. He then organized the Dremora as security to control the crowd. Did we forget anything? John asked Wolfer. Did you not forget anything? I feel like the orgy. Come on. And tell the Mazkin to start getting topless once the party rages on. John started running towards the other side of the party ground and spread his arms wide. Open the portals! And the portals opened. From all the various realms, hundreds of Sanguine's followers flooded the party grounds. The music intensified, and the effect of the bardic knowledge spell electrified the air. The followers of Sanguine were very adaptive to parties where they started dancing and feeling the vibe right away. This is grand. John laughed as he watched the scene getting more heat by the second. This is amazing. Gypsy joined John from the side and watched the party with a delighted smile. It is as if Lord Sanguine himself is managing the party. Oomph, you're thinking of me that much? John replied half-heartedly, while a look of wariness appeared on his face for a second. John, things are done on my end. Mirren came and reported. I'm always looking forward to your end, my friend. John winked. I'm going to unhear this. John checked out the preparations he left for Mirren and applauded the effort he put in them. What are those preparations? Gypsy asked after seeing the secluded realms which were specially guarded by Dremora. Those are, they are here. John was about to reply, but he sensed some distorting in space. Who's here? Gypsy became worried all of a sudden. The VIPs. John replied, adding a cunning laugh after what he said, making Gypsy feel more worried. He seemed to have gone and done something behind her back. Following him further away from the party, they arrived at a place where a bunch of Dremora were gathered. Master Krylin, the VIP portal is about to open. The leader of the local Dremora clan greeted John with a deep now, showing both fear and respect. At ease. Let's see who arrived first. John replied, standing in front of the portal and waiting. By the next second, the portal opened and a few orcs started walking out. Ugh, John's face crumbled the moment he saw the last member in this patch of VIPs. It was a gigantic orc with bronze skin, bald head, and heroic features. "You are not welcome here, Malakath," John shouted in annoyance. The giant orc noticed John and glared at him. "Mortal, did you just say I can't attend some party I want to attend? You're being insolent, mortal." The pressure of the two beings was immensely great. Malakath was in full power but didn't even exert a tiny minuscule of his power compared to John, who was going full sicko with his pressure. "You want to fight me, mortal? Here? In Oblivion?" Malakath felt like laughing and ridiculing John, but John was rather having a calculation of his own. "You know damn well who this place belongs to. You know that you are no welcome here, and you know who got my back, so—" John spoke directly to Malakath with a threatening tone, not backing down a bit. "But, Father, let's take care of this insolent pest." One of the orcs surrounding him spoke. "Our father won't be pushed around by the likes of you, human." Another orc spoke. "You think you can stop our father, a Daedric prince, by your mere powers." The third orc seemed more excited than the rest. What kind of shitty Chinese fiction plot is this situation developing into? John was at loss for words, seeing all those orcs acting as if they are in some sort of thugs. And in the spirit of shitty Chinese fiction plots, the fourth orc had to just say the unholy word. "You, human, how dare?" Indeed, it didn't need a split of a second for John to snap his fingers and for every orc around Malakath to be swallowed in darkness and disappear. Malakath saw what had become of the orcs and almost didn't believe he didn't feel John's energy moving a single bit. "My children, you dishonorable bastard, what have you done?" Malakath power exploded through the realm, but John seemed to be able to withstand it, unlike Gypsy and the Dremora surrounding him. John raised his hand, and the reality inside the realm split into two. The part where both Malakath and John were standing, and the part where everyone else were separate. Gypsy noticed the immense pressure of Malakath disappear, and the party over there was still rocking without any worry, but that wasn't what made her surprised. Seeing how John split the reality with his will inside a Daedric realm, her face turned from shock to disbelieving, and from disbelieving to realization. She ran to the edge of reality, which John split, and called. "Master Krylin, Master Krylin, it is all right." Lord Sanguine was about to make an exception for Lord Malakath in this party. She started shouting. Meanwhile, John and Malakath were having a showdown of their own. "Human," Malakath roared as he wanted to squish John just by his thoughts. "Hee. Sure." John called for the blessing of Shore, which completely nullified Malakath's power, almost making it useless. The archenemy of Malakath is no one other than Shore, and even though one of the reasons Shore died was Malakath, Shore still outdid Malakath in every aspect. The blessing of Shore was like everything Malakath hated in one go. Heartbreaker, blessing of Shore. Opponents submit faster while stronger opponents become weaker with time. On the other hand, losing resolve weakens you. The two didn't stop until the voice of Gypsy had fully reached them. "Master Krylin, you can allow him in." It was then when John stopped fighting. "Truly? Well, the more the merrier, I guess." John snapped his fingers once again, and the orcs that disappeared a moment ago appeared all over again. "My children, Father." The disgusting reunion between Malakath and his so-called children almost made John puke, but he used pride and opened a portal near them. "VIP Realm 13 is that way, Prince Malakath," John said. "Son of Shore, I won't forget this," Malakath said as he took away his children to the portal. "Enjoy your stay." With Malakath gone, John could take a long sigh and repair the reality he snapped. "Lord Krylin, this was amazing," Gypsy said in awe of his powers. "Yeah." John didn't understand what she was trying to say, as pride has a very powerful ability to completely yield the reality to the will of its owner, and a pocket realm like this one is simply very easy to manipulate. "By the way, what is Realm 13? Gypsy asked. "Oh, you don't need to worry. I doubt the orcs can tell a party from something else." John mischievously smiled. "Look, More guests are arriving. She pointed at the new portal forming not too far. The moment the portal opened, someone walked out, was the moment when the fireworks started firing on their own. Uncle, nephew, did you get my invitation? I wouldn't miss it for the entire Culpa. I was near Atmara, riding narwhals when they told me you were hosting this year's festival. Narwhals again. Ahaha. I remember telling you to mind the pointy end, and I was the one who should have heeded that advice. I ended up ruining my favorite pants. TSK, 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 TSK. You should have invited me. I almost begged you for it last time. It was just a small practice before the Narwhals Riding Champions League. Last year's winners were the Karstagman Ghosts, and it seems the Kamal are coming for it this year. Insufferable fools. No wonder the Monkey King is going to participate this year as well. I see a lot is happening. Indeed. By the way, I wanted to introduce you to someone dear to my heart. Shiagarath turned around and pointed to a girl following him. It was a gothic Lolita wearing a pink and black dress and spinning her dome-like umbrella that rested over her shoulder. She saw John and bent with her knees a little to greet him. John offered her a hand, and she raised hers for him, which he ended up kissing. John Dare, Thane of Winterhold, and other things. Baklava beaver tail, demi-prince of pastries. No wonder you're so tasty. I take it that you're my cousin. That will never stop me from eating all your sweet things. Baklava replied. I'll take this joke innocently. John laughed. How vexing. Mirren. And the Daedric princes started flooding in afterward. Lord Herson, puppies are not allowed in this party. I know, but this is new management. Only cats, please. We're lions indeed count. Right to the party. Lady Nocturnal, nice to finally see you. Looking good as usual. Go right in. Uncle Shio is snorting skooma over there. Yes, that big cat is him. Lady Vermina, leave the drugs at the bar. We'll be taking care of distributing it. Happy party. Lady Meridia, no shouting. My ears are still sensitive, damn it. Yes, your beacon is on its way to Mount Kilcreath. I just had to deal with Sanguine's mess on the way. John sighed in frustration having to deal with all those troublesome guests. No wonder Sanguine is always exhausted. And that was merely the beginning of the night. Another portal. Gypsy called. Oh, fuck me. John sensed the portal and felt 3 great presences. Who walked out were 3 tall women. The first was a woman darker than any dark elf with 2 glowing red eyes on her face and another 6 on her crown. He was dressed in black spider webs and had 4 pairs of spider legs coming from her back. The second was a woman dressed in full heavy ebony armor and walked with it as if it was part of her wielding a large blade and donning a red cape. Her hair was white and her skin was gray, but the look in her face was extremely terrifying. The third woman was the tallest of the 3 walking between them, and wearing a blue transparent silk dress, which exposed her enchanting assets underneath, on the other hand. Her face was covered with a veil from the top of her bluish hair to the tip of her nose, leaving only her mouth exposed. She was also covering her long neck with silver ring-like collars, and similar ones were worn as bracelets and feet accessories. We heard there is a new host, and it smells like an orgy in here, the Spider-Woman said. Good for you. Now go and spread your legs somewhere else. The woman in steel replied. Doth never starteth troubleth, minneth fellows, for I cameth to beholdeth the champion of ours, most wondrous Azura, hosting a party for which I feeleth quite the valorous vibes. The third woman was the most illustrious, one of the 3 taking anyone's breath away. Those were the obviously very lusty Mephala, the metal-headed and obviously other parts, Bothia, and the ever-high and always mighty Azura. My ladies, seeing the 3 of you here all at once warms my weak mortal heart. Huh, weak? Bothia laughed to the heaven, almost shaking the entire realm. The difference of power between here and the puny Malakath was simply terrifying. You are almost not so mortal. Don't worry. As long as you can make this lusty spider busy and give me and Azura a private place, you won't find trouble from me. She held them from his shoulder and brought him closer. How can you say that? I'm always willing to share my gifts between all mortals, especially my favorite mortals. Mephiles stuck closer to John from the other side. Our champion has to prove his pride and ego above all else. This is a secret from us to thee. It is hath said yon, between every leggeth of Mephiles this is a vagina. It wilt receiveth thee very excited, Azura said as she stuck behind him. John heard Azura and looked to Mephila, who was confirming the fact. Damn, all right. I need to finish things here and see wherein Oblivion Sanguine have disappeared then. I hope I can come and see. John opened another portal, Special Realm 69. The three good Daedra went down the portal, which John closed it well behind them. Wow, those three were... Gypsy was almost going to get mad for what she saw. Don't even say it. John cut her words short. Between spider boobs, iron boobs, and super boobs, I am still an advocate for human boobs. How admirable. Gypsy was almost about to go down and worship, if not noticing another portal open. There's more. What? No, I thought this was all we had on the invitation list. I made sure of that. It was at this moment where the portal started to get darker. It became way too dark that it almost absorbed all the light in the realm, which led John to split the reality once again. The presence made Nefertiti, who was hiding in John's shadow, to sober up from all the catnip. She snorted and became ready to take John to the shadows whenever anything goes wrong. It was then when a dark being appeared right behind John. He hurriedly took distance for him to see a large and dark slug-like creature crawling towards him while wearing a robe. The only part visible from it is the face, which showed a skull that obviously hid something more terrifying under it. This presence. I know it well. John saw everything living around this creature wilt and died just from touching its aura. To resist it, John kept his distance and didn't think of even opposing it. More tall, great void. The creature spoke, and John replied. They kept walking in circles while John was avoiding it by all instincts. This so-called great void is none other than the most terrifying and most ancient of all the Daedra princes. The Daedra of darkness, the wet nurse of Lorcan, and the one who granted him mortality. Lady Namara, you smell fresh, Morlurtal. I bathe a lot, surely. This is something you're not okay with, but we mortals are subjects of decay. It is mortals who are most delicious, especially at the peak of their power, seasoned by the limits of the hatred. The slug that is Namara moan because of her imagination. All right, the partying doesn't really go well with decaying, so if I can arrange you. Parrot-fritting? You mortal know nothing of how a Daedric prince should party. You want to know? Oh, by all means, I'll even take notes. Back in the day when time was still a little toddler with tasty scales, we would hunt both Morturtals and Spirits day in and day out. We would terrorize them and make them suffer while we eat them. I always keep a healthy diet at hand, but the others, TSK, they have changed. Now, they do everything to get the mortals' attention. They grow tits, they act benevolent, they accept gifts. Annoying. The best gifts we had were sacrifices, the best actions we did was consumption, and the best things we grew were claws, fangs, and more limbs. She said while baring her claws, fangs, and extra legs from the side. Oh, old-school Daedric parties were so chill. Yes, as I was telling you. You know what? I may have just the thing for you. A pocket realm filled with dirty, smelly mortals that need to be eaten. Truly, I'm a man of my word. Lady Namara, oh, you're much more considerate than that Brerett's sanguine. He only cares for tits. Huh. I know man, right? I just have to find him and get this day over with. Don't worry, more tall, sanguine never strays too fair from parodies. That's your portal, Lady Namara. John opened her a portal which she inspected before entering. She then laughed hysterically as she crept through it. Phew, this job is so stressful, John said as he opened the reality once again. That was Lady Namara? Where did you send her? Gypsy asked. VIP Realm 13. Wait, isn't that where Lord Malakath went with his kin? And John turned to Gypsy, showing her the most twisted of his smiles. Exactly. Chapter 563, Sanguine 3 fountain of the true liquor. So we got the party up and running. You said there are 3 other things that need to be done. The party, was simply the most difficult one, and knowing you, Lord Moan Krylin, you were going to breeze. The remaining rituals to preserve the spheres. All right, leave her alone, chop chop. We're not to waste any more time. John dragged Gypsy from her arm away from the party she was enjoying. The couple of dudes she was indulging herself with wanted to make trouble for John, but the Dremora were onto them. Dragging a lady out of a threesome like that? I feel so. You know, lady, what's next? John hit her on the head. Ouch, it's the fountain of true liquor, she said while trying to stay away from him. Then lead the way or open a portal or whatever. All right. So impatient. She wasn't willing to leave the party just yet, but John felt a little bit impatient. She headed out to open a portal to the next task he needs to finish in the stead of the Prince of Dark Desires while he waited for her. As he lagged behind a bit, he tapped with his foot on the ground twice, and Nefertiti appeared on his shoulder. You're sober, girl. Yes, Human. Listen to me very well. I wanted to take both Wulfer and Mirren outside this realm. There's a portal back home I prepared in secret. Mirren knows where it is. After that, stay hidden and wait for my signal. All right. Nefertiti disappeared just a split of a second before Gypsy turns around. You were saying something, Sugar? I wasn't saying anything, Sugar. He walked past her right into the portal she opened and stepped in. On the other side of the portal, things were pretty damn interesting. John stood with a cheeky smile in front of the sights he was seeing as they turned to him. All right, the smell is insinuating. Can someone tell me what exactly I should be doing here? I'm thinking it will be a lot of bending them over the barrel and showing them the 50 states, or the myriad realms in your cases. He winked as he bent over to tease some of the beauties who were swimming in a pool. Welcome, Lord Krylin, to the fountain of the true liquor. Do you like what you see? Gypsy came from behind John and stuck her naked body to his back. I do, this is grand, he said. He was in a realm between the stars. A large fountain in the center filled with liquor and girls, an endless number of them. The smell of this realm was not normal, as it smelled like a strong liquor that can make anyone drunk the moment they drew in a breath. What exactly is this place? John asked. As expected, you aren't even affected one bit. You're getting hard, though. You never even got a little bit hard with all the nude seducer in the party. Gypsy said as she was feeling out John's light-bringer and burying her face in his clothes, gradually getting drunk by the effect of the realm. As I said, I could dislike Deidre, but you haven't answered my question. What is the situation here? This fountain is the place where the origin liquor is fermented, and guess what is the best material to do so? Gypsy said as she was getting sluggish. Sluts. Nope, virgins, beautiful ones. Is always damn virgins Lord Sanguine wants. Wow. John looked at the place in front of him and couldn't believe how many virgins can be gathered in one place. How many girls did Sanguine kidnap? Kidnap? Nope. They are all faithful. Any maiden who wishes her virginity to be undone by Lord Sanguine offers herself and gets taken here to be a maiden forever. Some of these girls are hundreds of years old, and they're still 18. At the end of every festival, Lord Sanguine chooses one of them to fulfill her wish and gives her a wonderful boon. I love that choice of words, but damn, some of them are older than Grandma Barry at this rate. You will be doing the ritual in the stead of Lord Sanguine this year. Champion, now show us your infamous boon. Gypsy knelt between John's legs and started rubbing her face against him like a bitch in the heat. Gypsy, I remember warning you not to try to pull any move on me. John kicked her away. Why am I doing any of this? Gypsy got up after being kicked with a masochist smile, as if enjoying it. You're no fun, she said. This is a very important step, or part of whatever. This place makes people drunk, but when Lord Sanguine made the immortal wine for you, he drew a lot of power from this place. Now, many of the girls here are starting to become sober, and this is making the world become sober. Now you must make them go drunk once again by driving them all into a strong and intense euphoria. Do that, and you will restore the sphere of drunkenness. You should have just started with that, John said, and started to remove his shirt. Remember, you are playing the role of Lord Sanguine. You must make them all reach orgasm while keeping them all virgins. Gypsy said, and the effect of the realm made her pass out afterward. John started thinking of how to do that. Not that he doesn't know what to do, but which method he should use. He can just use pride and make them all come to orgasm without touching them, but there was one thing that showed a reaction to the realm. Lust, you want to come out and play? John asked. Lust started to vibrate and expressed its desire to go out and play with all these women. John simply smiled and nodded. Just give me a second. Greed, remove all my clothes. Greed, which was covering John as a coat, changed its form and covered John from head to toe before retreating back with all of John's clothes inside the cube. What remained was John in all his glory. He walked forward to the fountain and stepped on the marble surrounding it. The place was made in the imperial style with white marble and statues of women surrounding the place. It felt worthy of Sanguine. Once the girls bathing in the liquor saw John walking at them, they all came with bowls of liquor from the fountain and surrounded John. They started pouring the liquor on him and bathing him from his hair to his nether region. They even used their tongues to lick the liquor off him. All right, let's go in. John walked forward and descended into the fountain with the naked girls surrounding him. Living the dream which would drive all men insane with envy, John walked across the fountain to its center and sat under the big statue, which was pumping out more liquor. The girls came from all corners, and their bodies were as insinuating as nothing in the world. If only Alina was with me here, we could have played with you without care about anything. Sadly, I need to wrap things up, he said, and pushed away a girl that was trying to cling on his back. He then used pride and sent all the girls away from him at an equal distance, forming a large circle of naked bodies. Listen up. We'll play a small game. Right now, I'll start teasing you all at the same time. The girl who can endure and reach me will be the one I free from her duty and make into the bride of true liquor. How does this sound? John's offer made the half-drunken girl jump around and feel excited. At that moment, John took out a liquor bottle from the cube and poured in the fountain. This was the immortal wine which Sanguine made for him, and by returning it to the fountain, its effect should get stronger now. However, mixed in that bottle was lust, the moon crystal ether. Lust, sin, metamorphosis, desire, inducement. Of course, lust used its metamorphosis ability on itself to mix in with the immortal wine and slipped into the fountain of true liquor. All right, it all starts now. Just as John gave the signal, the girls started moving towards him. He was the grand prize for all those lustful females, and one of them will make it to him. Just which one? Which one of them can overcome the call of desire once lust mixed itself in the fountain's liquor? There is no need to describe how they ended up. It was simply too erotic for even John to endure, and John the Impaler was as excited as ever for whoever endures lust. It was a hard competition. The ones with big assets started to have violent orgasms as lust seemed to be targeting whoever it likes more. Some are even strong enough to endure a few orgasms and keep walking. Once the circle grew tighter, lust focused its effect on a smaller scale, which became too hard for the girls to endure, but John still supplied it with magicka to keep going. In truth, lust is the weakest sin, and situations like this are perfect for its final upgrade. It may actually be the fastest growing sin since John is a 24/7/12/360 philanderer. And here it came, with the last 3 girls remaining. John made sure to be in the center, and lust started to focus only on those 3. It even started returning to its form and physically interacting with them. Seeing the 3 girls endure, John was totally indifferent to their suffering and wanted to just enjoy it till the end. One of the 3 exploded, not literally, in a violent orgasm that rendered her unconscious. The last 2 tried to jump at him almost at the same, but only one managed to grab his ankle while the other passed out of exhaustion. Looks like we have a winner. John lifted the girl who touched him up and feasted his eyes on her naked body and good-looking face. My lord, my lord. She threw herself on his chest and tried to catch her breath. I got you. John grabbed her closer and looked at Lust. The moon crystal ether was finally showing signs of mutation. It changed color into transparent light pink and started to shrink smaller and smaller. A final form. That's the first time this is happening. John watched carefully as the weakest sin artifact started reaching its full potential. In the end, it turned into a small pink crystal gem. Lust, sin, metamorphosis, desire inducement. Venus. Venus? What name? Let's try it out. John stood up and put the winter girl down, then held the lust and aimed it at her. Show us this new power. The moment he commanded Lust to display the power of Venus, all sorts of tricks started happening in front of his eyes. Not only the girl close by, but literally every girl in the realm, including Gypsy, was having someone appearing over them. Most of these ones were versions of him. They were fabricated illusions, but to the girls, these were the ones they desire the most at the moment. Once they felt him, all his versions started indulging themselves with these girls in passionate situations. This was to be expected, or at least the basic function. However, the venue effect was sending feedback to John. All the good sensations shared between the targets, and the illusions were going to him directly. This is so damn good, just turn it off. I need a clear head. John manually stopped that function, but soon after, he discovered another. Lust was even causing an intoxicating effect to its targets similar to the true liquor, which made them completely lose their reason to desire and become drunk with euphoria. Away from the crowd of girls that was desperately lusting for him, Gypsy's lust was about a Dremora who looked somewhat like John. That was probably a mix of him and Sanguine. What a turn off. John had to cancel the effect of lust and carried his girl. He got outside the fountain of true liquor. Gypsy was still of no use, so he had to rely on what he had. Can you answer some questions? He asked the girl. My lord, I am your slave. The girl said as she started making advances on him. Just tell me, what is the next part? Shouldn't I free you by taking your virginity or something? John asked. Yes, my lord. Over that direction, there's a secluded area between the barrels of liquor. She said as she pointed. Barrels, huh? I'll enjoy this. What should I call you, girl? She became confused by his question, but then shrugged her shoulders. Something like names or time. I forgot all that after the first 100 years. Now that I will be freed, my master will grant me a name. TSK, don't have any in mind. Let's just go. Just before you start assuming, this is a respectful novel. No shitty Japanese ice guy slave fantasies here. John carried her behind those barrels and sat her on one. She wasn't the prettiest of the lot or the one with the most assets. She was actually a bit average, but she still looked great. Her skin was smooth, her figure was fit, and her face was calming to look at. Skipping the foreplay to the real thing, John finally breached that girl as she opened wide for him. Her tightness was that of a virgin, and how her fit belly muscles moved with him inside her was indicating how mad she is going in this intercourse. Her virginity was taken, and John started to enjoy her tightness and insane moans. If this girl wasn't a virgin for a few hundred years and had actual experience in sex, she would have been a legendary courtesan. John kept thrusting, and she kept moaning sweetly of the pleasure. He even leaned on her and started biting her hard nipples and would steal a deep, passionate kiss every once in a while. Now that he was fully triggered, he held her up in his arms, and after a minute of insane dynamic action, he had an intense, pleasurable moment with her as they both came at the same time. She hurriedly knelt in front of her master and licked his fire rod clean. He was still hard, but after all this enjoyment, however, he was calm and collected. What next? For me? I will follow my lord forever from this moment on. I swear to serve you faithfully. She said, No, I have a wife I am faithful to. My outside indulgences are tolerated as long as they are within her consent, and I share them with her. Once I send you to Mundus, report to her and do whatever she tells you to do. Yes, master. I shall be a slave to the mistress as well. Geez, fine. Now go fetch that gypsy. The girl went obediently and brought out Gypsy, who was struggling to stand right from the potent effect of the realm. She told him that the last duty here is to take an ewer of liquor and keep it for the remaining 2 rituals. Of course, he thought while having a naughty thought in mind, why not? Chapter 564, Sanguine for the Celestial Indulgence. Orgy, it is a term that means, I know what an orgy means. All I'm saying is this situation is a gangbang, you moron. How so? I am one, and there are 12 of them. You need to upgrade the terminology here. Also, why would I ravage those 12 women? This is not Molag Bal's realm last time I checked. But Lord Krylin, this is the only way to preserve the sphere of corruption and fetishes. Don't wanna. I beg of you. The second stop was by far the most disturbing one John had to make. It was called the Celestial Battlefield, and it wasn't in any way a battlefield. The ones waiting for him, there were 12 women of extreme beauty wearing the most exposing of clothing. The moment John saw them, he said, wow. So this is where all the skimpy slutty armor mods I downloaded ended up. This celestial battlefield was also a realm that directly met the open space, just like a fountain of true liquor. Those 12 women were the only ones around, and each had a certain name. The warrior is a tanned redhead wearing bikini armor and holding a dull sword that she obviously can't even use. The thief is a brunette woman who came topless except for a quiver strap that covered a nipple and a short blade strap that covered the other, all while holding a bow and an arrow that were obviously toys. The mage was the one John liked the most since she is a blonde wearing AV one-piece bikini, which John thinks to be superior to other forms of bikinis. She was holding a staff that had no gem on it. Aside from those 3, the rest were the lord, the lady, and the steed standing behind the warrior, the lover, the shadow, and the tower standing behind the thief, finally the ritual, the Atronak, and the apprentice standing behind the mage. Each of the 12 women here corresponds to a constellation of stars, and you, Lord Krylin, correspond to the 13th constellation you are familiar with the most, the serpent. After all, it is your birth sign. Gypsy said, yes. In culture, the 3 guardian constellations are the warrior, the thief, and the mage, and they protect their charges, the rest of the constellations, from the constellation that seeks to swallow them all, the serpent. I can already see where this is going. Indeed, Lord Sanguine is the lord of dark desires, and what is greater than the dark desire of the serpent to swallow the other constellation? Compared to the other 2 rituals, this one focuses on how Lord Sanguine delivers his gifts. In other words, I must do it with the warrior, strip the lord of her power, ride the steed, and show the lady who's boss, then do the same with the other 2 groups. Yes, you must ravage them all into submission. The gifts of Lord Sanguine should make those women surrender to their desires in the most heartbreaking way possible. Just try not to kill many of them. Nah, I don't feel like doing it to begin with. They can't even fight back. John refused. Oh, actually they can. Look over there. Gypsy pointed to the warrior and winked for her. The warrior went and knelt in front of the lord, who gave her a ceremonial accolade by touching both her shoulders with the sword. All of a sudden, the warrior started gaining a lot of power and became nothing like the wuss she was before. She then injured herself intentionally and then turned to the lady. Just by sharing a passionate kiss together, the warrior's wound disappeared like it never happened. The last was the steed, who pointed at the warrior and pointed at another location, causing the warrior to teleport instantly. This is awesome. John felt excited seeing that. The warrior gains power from a lord, heals by the love of the lady, and moves around using the stead. The thief gains advantage on the tower, hides in the shadow, and heals by the lover. The mage gains power from the ritual, heals by her apprentice, and channels even more power through the Atronak. Gypsy explained how it all works. This is fun. I still can kick their asses, though. John said, Fu. Of course you can. That's why there are rules. I'm listening. The ritual is based on taking turns between you, the warrior, the thief, and the mage. Each turn is limited to one action in which they can use the powers of any of their 3 charges. The rules regarding you are that you can't take all of your items in the ritual and must go in naked. You have the chance to choose 3 of the items you own, and as an advantage, you have the ewer of true liquor from the last ritual, as well as the girl you freed. The liquor can heal you, and the girl can do your bidding. I see, that's understandable. John thought for a while, then nodded. All right, I know what to do. What are the items you will be using? Gypsy asked. My staff, which I call pride, a gemstone which I call lust, and a lucky coin. Also, the girl will be carrying the ewer. I don't need it. Suit yourself, Gypsy said, then handed John a handful of dice. Roll for initiative. HM? Sorry, what? 8. Warrior. 11. Thief. 18. Mage. 10. John. The mage starts. Gypsy. Wait, John said. I have a feat called Old Man's Coin, which lets me re-roll for initiative with advantage after flipping this coin. John. Whatever. Gypsy. 20. John. The serpent may start. Gypsy. I will cast Tentacles Hentai on a mage. John. That's not even an actual spell. Gypsy. Pride can cast anything. John. Roll accuracy. Gypsy. 18. John. You hit. Roll for damage. Gypsy. 20. John. The mage is dead. She will be revived in the next round by any of the charges if they survive this round. Thief. Your turn. Gypsy. Shouldn't they roll death saves? John. That's not a normal rules battle. Thief. Gypsy. The shadow will send me behind the enemy, and I shall strike him with my dagger from the back. Thief. And you appear behind the serpent. Roll for accuracy. Gypsy. 12. Thief. What's your armor class, serpent? Gypsy. I'm naked, but it depends where the hit lands. John. So let's call this a hit. Thief. Roll for damage. Gypsy. 13. Thief. You do 13 damage to the serpent, Gypsy. Wait, did that attack just land on my butt? John. Why? Yes. Gypsy. My butt has maxed armor class. John. What? Thief. It says here that the serpent's buttock is, well, it is the hardest but in existence, completely indestructible, can completely kill undead for good, and has the ability to reflect damage by 100%. Thief. You take 13 damage. Gypsy. Impossible. Thief. No one told you to hit my butt. John. Warrior, your turn. Gypsy. I charge with a flying kick towards the enemy's hot rod. Warrior. Yeah. Can't you do anything but that for your own good? Gypsy. No. I shall smite his vulgar thing. Warrior. Roll for accuracy. Gypsy. Arg. 10. Warrior. You miss. Be thankful for that, but on the other hand, you land directly under the serpent and gaze at his magnum opus up close. This is so big. Warrior. Serpent, your turn. Gypsy. I cast Orgasmic Burst around me. There is no accuracy for that cause, it's AoE. I have 10 on psychic damage. John. Everyone takes 10 psychic damage and enter a state of to erotic euphoria, except for the warrior and the thief, who have immunity against mind manipulation. The mage resurrection is interrupted for this round, since everyone is now stunned in orgasm. Third round. Serpent. I guess you're up again. Gypsy. I use lust, S ability, Venus, on all the charges and seduce them to join my side. John. What is wrong with this ability description? Inside a Daedric realm, which belongs to the Daedric Lord of Dark Desires, lust attacks are unavoidable and unlockable? Gypsy. That's lust for you. John. Of course it is. Damn it. You have all the charges on your side now. The warrior and the thief have no one left to protect, and the mage is permanently dead. The serpent has Gypsy. Wait. John. What? Gypsy. Ritual. I want you to revive the mage. John. Yes, my lord. Ritual. What's the point of this? You are winning. Gypsy. I still have a feat called an offer of a lifetime for being a CEO of a multinational corporation and a man of law. John. This is just broken. Gypsy. warrior, thief, and mage. I look at you, and I see something good, something beautiful. I'm trying to hold you at a disadvantage or use any sort of manipulation on you. If you're to be my subordinates, I will give you back your charges, reward you handsomely, and we can all be on the winner's side together. John, I have 15 on my perception to investigate motive. Mage, he wants to sleep with all of the 12 constellations together so he can brag about it later on. I guess this counts as being honest. Gypsy, so we just need to submit to you. Warrior, if you feel like it, but remember, it's all about having fun together. I don't even have any more plans than that. John, just that. Thief, just that. Gypsy, is this game over? John, fuck it. Yeah, it's your win. Gypsy. The festival back in the party realm was still going even wilder. The Daedric princes resided in certain pocket realms and abodes overlooking the party realm. Amidst these places was a small abode which John designated as a spot where he can oversee everything. He stood watching how the fornication and adultery filled the realm below his feet with a cup in his hand. This quest is turning way better than the one it was supposed to be, he said as he gestured for the nameless girl he picked to fill his cup. You have managed to create a splendid party, my lord. It is going to be remembered in the Revel lands for ages to come. The girl said, You think so? John looked at the liquor in his cup before swallowing in one go and feeling the burn down his throat. I think this party is disgusting. He threw the cup away and walked back into the abode amidst all the bodies around him raving between euphoria and madness. I never thought you would feel this way, my lord. Is the party not to your standards? She asked. Are you talking about the sex, liquor, skooma, and that shit show down there? John asked as he sat on a large seat, and the girl walked to stick her body to his. No, I'm not that kind of guy. I may enjoy a bloody fight, a drunken rampage, or a skooma prank, but I will never let it consume me like this. So my lord is not a hedonist. I may identify myself as someone who is true to his desires and may not mind it if someone call me a philanderer or a hedonist. But the thing about me is I have my own brand of being naughty. This around us is simply a bunch of poor lost souls who are trying to find something they don't have. It varies from happiness to connecting with others to simply feel alive. They think that this is the way things should be while all they do is to consume themselves for a sphere of corruption and dark deeds. They don't control their fates as they think. They are just something as pretty as a candle in the right spot, giving it glamour and beauty until, boot, it burns away. Then what is the point of life? Shouldn't we take as much as we can from it? You never take anything without giving. You of all people should have known that already. You lived for centuries as a maiden of true liquor, but you gave away everything in return. You are just a husk, my dear, a pretty one. The most humane thing to do with you is to twist your neck and prevent you from the suffering that is to come, but I will not take the easy way. I'll leave you to fate. You see, it is all balance with fate and life. You never take without giving. They give away their essence for pleasure until one day they become husks even worse than you are. The difference between me and those hedonists in this realm is that I know my limits and I honor them by keeping them in balance with what I can give. John said as he stood up, That's what it means to be in control. Always in control. Not even with the most insinuating women, liquor, and power in the world. The girl failed to understand John perfectly, but she felt bad at the very least. John held her close and patted her. I am not a savior, but I hope you find what you miss, he said before changing the look on his face to a naughty one. All right, enough with the heavy thoughts. Let's see this party to an end. John looked around him at the small party in his abode where the 12 women representing the 12 constellations were getting laid by 12 versions of him, created by lust. Lust was roaming around the area, making the clones act more intensely and driving the 12 constellations insane. Do you want to feel something good? John asked the girl. Yes, my lord. All right. Lust, send the feedback to her. It didn't take an instant for the girl to start overheating and her legs to lose all their power. John held the ewer of true liquor from her and stored it away, and before she could touch her private parts, he held her hands apart from each other. She tried to quiver and rub her parts as she was getting the feedback of 12 women getting laid by his clones. It didn't take her a few seconds before she and every other woman in the room started squirting to the point of madness. It smells nice in here. At that moment, Gypsy walked in the abode and saw the 13 women having a hard time gathering their power to do anything other than lightly touching themselves and roughly breathing. The clones have long since disappeared, as they were nothing but illusions visible only to whoever John wants to see. Gypsy assumed that John had let out the animal and wreaked havoc between every pair of legs of the 13. So the second ritual was about how Sanguine wants to corrupt everything in the world, even the stars in the sky. John said as he looked away from Gypsy to hide his expressions from her. "Indeed, and you're doing a splendid job instead," she said, then removed the piece of her dress covering her crotch. "Want to have the 14th before we get going?" John smiled faintly as he turned around to face her. "Let's say, I'm saving the best for last." John refused her with a wink. She smiled widely and threw herself on him. "I will do my best to serve you after all this is over, my lord." Each of them was smiling for their own reason, not showing the other their true intentions. "I am in for a reward," he said. "Of course, you will be rewarded with the highest honor a mortal can achieve," she replied. We'll see." "As you command," Gypsy replied. "The tournament is about the indulgence in bloody situations. Those around you are some of the most experienced killers in Tamriel. I could teach a few children how to hold a sword for a week, and they'd haunt those so-called killers to the ends of oblivion." John laughed. "Of course. Have you heard about any of those killers targeting anyone who is not a woman or a child? Those cowards wouldn't dare to even look straight to a real man in the eye. If this is the last thing, let's just get it over with. How are we supposed to proceed?" John asked. "There are a total of 100 victims that will be released in this realm. Each of the 100 killers will choose one and show their skills in tracking and killing in the most violent of ways, and one will be chosen to win the favor of Lord," Gypsy said, but John interrupted her. "Yeon, I am sorry. Were you just saying something so boring?" He looked at her and the rest of the killer with no interest before having an idea. Change of plans. He found a nearby boulder and jumped on it. "All right, you fucks, gather around. I'm not killing you. Don't worry. Not yet anyway," he said and started casting large-scale magic. Out of the ground, a large, smooth platform started to grow and gathered all of the 99 killers on it alongside Gypsy, the nameless girl, and the gore slime John created. This platform joined together firmly and started rising up. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to the actual and fun tournament of the 100 Bloods. Now all of you motherfuckers have come here to prove that you are the best killer there is. But I find one thing very lacking, and that is an actual challenge." As the platform reached a certain height, John walked in the middle of those killers who were keeping distance away from him. "Now, I trust that all of you brought the tools of your trade. Let's see. Nails, blades, swords, razors, chains, robes, clubs, poison, oh ho ho. Some of you even brought magic scrolls. How insightful. All right," John said and raised his staff. "I am confiscating everything." All these tools and equipment were gathered in a floating pile by telekinesis, leaving their owners in a messy state, almost losing their confidence. "Come on, don't be disheartened. I'll give them back. Actually, I'll give you more tools from my arsenal like crossbows, staves, you name it. I am just aiming for quality. That's all." He indeed added a few worthless items from his cube to the pile and slowly brought them down the platform. He didn't put them down, but rather, he opened a large hole in the platform. "Whoa, get back." The killers saw what is under the platform and all started running back right away. They didn't really feel that before since John was distracting them, but the platform has significantly risen from the ground to fly at a very high altitude. A couple of the killers didn't manage to make it and fell through the hole. "Don't worry. I have cast Featherfall on all of you, so you will survive the fall eventually." John smiled as he showed them how the two fallen killers landed safely without even a scratch. "See? Now, let's move to the fun part. The equipment I have confiscated will be. John suddenly threw all these weapons and tools through the hole, as well then randomly sent them to every part of the realm. Randomly distributed. I guess skilled killers like you won't even worry about such a thing as a certain type of tool, right? From what it seemed, the situation was about to turn into something that John will enjoy very much. By the way, I call this hole the glory hole, since it is, well, your hole to glory, I guess. John turned around to suppress his own laugh and looked at them once again. Now, every one of you will have to jump down from this platform as it moves around the realm. You can simply land anyway safely, as you saw. The killers started complaining and looking among themselves, but John added fuel to the fire. By the way, there will only be one victim available in the realm, and that will be my lovely assistant over there. John pointed at the nameless girl carrying the ewer of true liquor. As you command, my lord. She bowed to him and proceeded to take the jump without complaining. Nope, not now. John stopped her and looked at the 100 killers who were still recovering from the situation. One victim, 100 killers. Only one can emerge victorious. But they need the best tools that John threw around. This means, all right, let's send you people down there. The platform will take one turn, and those of you who don't jump at its end will be forced to jump. Chop, chop. I haven't got all day, he said, and then remember, one last thing, there I suggest you hurry to the center of the realm before a little trick I prepared starts taking effect. 1. John retreated back to a faraway spot on the platform, and a nameless girl poured him a glass of true liquor. What are you doing? This tournament is supposed to be the bloodiest of all, and you are just sending one victim? Gypsy started shouting without sense. 1. John looked Gypsy indifferently before hugging the nameless girl with one arm. She means more than just one victim to me. I quite like this girl. The sphere of bloodlust requires more sacrifices. This can't be neglected for any reason. Oh, come on. You want 100 victims? You get 100 victims, John said with a sly smile. Just watch how it plays. John pointed at the killers who were now talking amongst themselves while the platform moved. They were looking at John scared and fearful before discussing things amongst themselves. They started to split themselves into small groups and alliances while scheming what to do next. They all want to gain the favor of Lord Sanguine with the only chance the 100 of them were presented. While discussing, some of the men actually jumped through the glory hole and started landing in an area where they believed some of the tools were stored. Seeing that, the rest started to get anxious and a few jumped while others waited. In the end, every one of the killers, including the gore slime, jumped off the platform. Gypsy watched from above, curious of how things will unfold, but she didn't need to wait that much. Scream. Slash. Choking. Torn apart. What sort of madness is this? Seeing Gypsy getting all pale over such a little thing, John simply stood beside her chugging his true liquor cup. This is human nature at its best, John said, the only thing that will never ever disappoint. He walked around the glory hole and faced Gypsy from the other side, while watching the situation down below of the murderers butchering each other. Welcome to the battle royale of 100 bloods. 99 victims, and only one shall gain the favor of Sanguine. I mean, what is the point of being the best if you're not the last man standing, right? No, this shouldn't have happened. 100 killers, 100 lambs. That's the rule. Gypsy cried. Rule? John smiled. I know, but wasn't my rule that you never try to trick me, Gypsy? He walked on air, actually levitating, and closed in on her. Then, with simply his will, he raised her up from the neck with magic. You shouldn't have crossed me, priestess. I know very well what you wanted from me, and in truth, I feel disgusted. John spat on the ground and looked at her unamused. By the way, the rules of this realm are pretty simple. It only requires 100 violent kills regardless of the method or the identity of the sacrifice. I started it with turning one man into a spawn of his innards, and the killers are doing the rest on their own. I even pretended to be adding a single lamb for one single winner, but let's see how this unfolds. It was indeed as he said. The mayhem started to get out of hand, as almost half of the killers were now victims, but the situation was very much spread around. Well, that until something started happening at the edges of the realm. Hee, it is time, John said as sparks of lightning started striking the edges of the realm, and the dry woodland was catching fire. You madman, Gypsy said as she was still held up from her neck between life and death. Seriously? What did you expect when you were expecting? John asked her with a sinister laugh. Your plan will fail. Soon they will stop killing each other anyway once they realize that there is no lamb to kill. She said. Now the situation has turned even worse. The wildfires around the realm spread at a terrifying speed, forcing the killers to run towards the center of the realm. The situation looked grim, and until now the lamb wasn't found yet. Do you know what is the most dangerous thing in the world? John asked. Gypsy wasn't sure whether to taunt him or resist his choke, so she stayed silent. It is hope, John said the spine at the loudest of his voice. Announcement. The lamb will be released in 1 minute. Survive until then. John just said that and walked away, leaving the nameless girl stand alone at the edge of the hole. What now? Gypsy asked. Carefully watch. Faster than the spreading wildfires, faster than the death looming in any place in oblivion. The death rate soared in an instant. Those so-called teams turn on each other, hoping to get the lamb before their partners. They betrayed, cheated, escaped, hunted, and made atrocities just to remove the competition before the prize lands. And the minute passed. Only 2 participants remained. A participant that has killed more than 20 other killers on his own, and another that hasn't killed anyone at all yet. It was then when a nameless girl jumped off the edge of the hole without even flinching. It is almost over, John said as he finally let go of Gypsy. Gypsy started coughing violently for a while, then ran to the edge of the hole, wanting to see the result. There was indeed one killer roaming around the realm and away from the wildfires with a big knife in his hand, while the second one was nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, the nameless girl landed safely with the light wraps covering her body flying all around. She looked so weak and innocent despite being a maiden of the true liquor, someone who lived in eternity in a drunken euphoria. The girl landed right in front of the killer, still carrying the ewer of true liquor despite the fall. She stood not knowing what to do until a large man with a twisted smile eyeing her up and down. He played with a knife in his hand, wondering which method to use to slaughter the lamb. The girl on the other hand noticed something else lurking in the dark behind the trees. She ignored the man, completely causing him to frown before turning around to see what's behind him. And, the killer soiled himself from the scare before he was caught, and had his body dissolved in one of the most horrible deaths ever. He was swallowed by a formless, gigantic monster that looked exactly like. Ding, ding, ding. And we have a winner. Mr. Bloated Corpse. The formless spawn of filth and gore stood still until John descended with the platform. Simply put, this thing which John created has become almost 100 times larger than it used to be. 100 times. There's a pattern here, don't you think? John asked. Gypsy was utterly shocked seeing this unidentified monster. What is no way? The 100 Bloods? The killers? Yes, you're very special all in one package. You monster, she said. Exactly, but it is very confusing if you call me that way. I mean, I wouldn't have hosted this grand event on my own. John walked to her, and she tried retreating, but Mr. Bloated Corpse blocked her escape. Now we have restored the sphere of bloodlust, the sphere of drunken euphoria, and the sphere of corruption. Let's talk about what you were trying to do. You were aware of what was happening. Indeed. Walk like them until they walk like you. That's the principle of mantling. I had to do the 3 rituals sacred to sanguine until I myself become sanguine. I actually noticed something was wrong when I found the Hound of Clavicus while roaming around me for a night or 2. Then when I arrived here, I noticed that the realm was pretty neglected for a long time. Until I heard about your task and what happened with Namara and Malakath, I became sure that Sanguine was trying to hijack me. Pretty smart, I give him that. John revealed that he was aware from the beginning. It was all about Sanguine wanting to become one with John through mantling. If John becomes Sanguine, The dominant part will mostly be Sanguine since he is an immortal with immense power, but that didn't go this way at all. Still, Jon's potential may actually be greater than many of the Daedric princes, thus, it would have boosted Sanguine's power significantly. But now, Jon had not just defied Sanguine, but he almost ruined each of his fears without even Gypsy noticing. "Just what have you done?" she said, feeling the weight of being on the wrong side of Jon's oppressive aura. "I will tell you later, but now, it is time for you to receive punishment properly." Jon said, "Let's start by analyzing you." "Analyzing me?" Gypsy didn't understand what Jon meant, until he snapped his fingers for the nameless girl to hold her down and turn her lower half up. "Yes, we will do some anal ISIS." Chapter 566, Jon and Sanguine. It was nothing but ruin for the aftermath of the tournament of 100 Bloods. 100 Bloods were sacrificed that day, and not a single one of them was a decent mortal. The scheme of Jon seemed to have even slipped under the nose of a Daedric prince, the one who tried to make Jon mantle him. Mantling is a very curious subject, and through it, a man can truly be a part of a higher being, which is not a bad deal altogether. It is just not a thing Jon would choose. And compared to the other Daedric princes, Sanguine is pretty chill and very compatible with Jon. The thing is, Jon is not a fan of Daedra. It is not a feeling he was reincarnated with, but rather something he developed after being under the care of Nerina for many years. Compared to others, Jon may be able to hold relationships with Daedra, understand them, outplay them, and even manipulate them. Still, he would never be one of them. It has nothing to do with what is holy or unholy. It is all about affinity. Jon may be licked by the madness of Sheogorath, swift like the strikes of Mephala, vengeful like the wrath of Bothia, egoist like the vanity of Azura, and playful like the tendencies of Sanguine, but he was never the one that would consume himself with one Daedric affinity over the other. But that wasn't the reason why he didn't get assimilated with Sanguine after he finished the tasks. In truth, things shouldn't have been any simple, but it should have gone like that. If he gets to walk the footsteps of Sanguine, he slowly becomes Sanguine over the span of time. The Daedric Prince of Madness, Sheogorath, was called the hero of Kvatch 200 years ago. He was a different person than the one he is today until he slowly took the form and tendencies of Sheogorath. Understanding why Jon refused the illustrious offer of immortality in the shoes of Sanguine and having all the eternal pleasure of this realm is exactly like trying to understand why a little child doesn't want to eat broccoli. They don't like the taste despite the benefits, and clearly would just do anything to not eat it. That's what being a Daedric prince means to Jon. Broccoli? 'Cause I hate it, and my cat hates it. I, a Daedric prince, am being compared to broccoli? So you hate broccoli as well. Why would I love such distasteful mortal food? Well, maybe you should have tried to make me mantle you through hating broccoli. That should have worked. Arg. Hateful. It was Sanguine, well, all right, and he was as powerless as a mortal after getting his fear screwed up by Jon. His high priestess was also screwed hard to the point where, as Jon warned, cannot stand straight. Now, I'm expecting a reward, Jon demanded as he stood in front of Sanguine in the damaged realm that hosted the tournament. A reward? You, after all you did to me, you beast. You asked my lord for a reward? Gypsy cried while holding her pain, but... What? I have done some tremendous job. An incredible job, if you ask me, but still very tremendous. And aside from cucking you with your high priestess, I think I deserve an actual reward. You little... Sanguine was not sure how to deal with this mortal. Aside from how connected he is with Sheogorath and how his scheme to swallow the fate of the fabled Dragonborn have ended, he could no longer help but suppress his rage. By all means, Sanguine said as he spread his hand, you can take my staff. With the power of the Daedric Prince gathering together, a large rose was formed in the shape of a staff. Its aura was incredible and its powers were. Put that piece of garbage away. Jon blurted out of the blue. Mortal, are you insane? This is the rose. Sanguine's rose. It's the most trash of all existence. What can it do? Summon unbound Draymora? Don't make me laugh. My far can outdo that staff. John refused it right away. Sanguine's rose was pretty much one of the most useless artifacts in the game. Even though it could be very powerful in the hands of a great conjurer like John, he completely abhors that artifact. Mortal's insolence knows no bounds. Sanguine's anger made the realm shiver. More like Daedric idiocy, but whatever. You twisted mortal. If you don't want my best artifact, what reward do you want then? Sanguine asked. I want the threads. John made his demand. The what? Sanguine was taken aback all of a sudden. The threads of the web spinner. I want them. John said. Why? Who told you about them? Was it Mephala? Did she set you up for this? Nope. I happen to know through my mortal connections that the threads were collected once by the leader of the Morag Tong, but that was 200 years ago, and now they are lost. I imagine the one who crafted them to be able to bring them with a snap. John said, Mortal, you are really abandoning my almighty staff for such common artifacts. Of course. No offense, but your staff is nothing I fancy. All right, but first, tell me how you damaged my sphere, even under the nose of this useless priestess. Sanguine was pretty angry to the point where he pushed Gypsy away from his sight. She has indeed caused him a lot of problems for not being able to control someone like John, who follows his desires as a base instinct, or that's what he thought at first. He was expecting to fade and slowly grow into John Dare until the both of them slowly become one, but he found himself emerging from the sea of oblivion like any reincarnating Daedra. He tried to locate any change of his spheres and found them restored, but pretty much jumbled around. The last one affected was the sphere of bloodlust in the tournament of the 100 Bloods. When he arrived, he found John teaching Gypsy a lesson in deep analysis while she was praying for him to save her. And from then to now, to fix what John messed up, he at least needs to know what John did. Gypsy seemed to have noticed John screwing up his spheres, which is the reason why he couldn't make John mantle him. The man in question himself was grinning ear to ear. All right, where to start? From the beginning, the party. Oh, that was not that much of a problem. I just outdid your style in partying. It seems that you have to keep up with me from now, party man. Don't get cocky. That can't be everything. Right? To be honest, when I fixed the party, I had no intention of screwing up your spheres if not for Lady Namra and Malakath making me notice what you were scheming. I mean, I had speculations before, but the moment you passed your orders to Gypsy to tell me to let Malakath in, I knew you are in connection with her. Regarding Lady Namra, she said you don't miss a party, so I realized you were going against your very nature to miss this party, which means you were not forced since a party can't start without your consent. You have already permitted this party to start in order for me to follow your steps and carry on your spheres. John explained. Namra and Malakath, of all the parties, those troublemakers decide to show up on this party. Sanguine cried from frustration. What about the fountain of true liquor? Oh, that one was fun. To restore the sphere of drunkenness. I had to put all those maidens into a state of euphoria. That wasn't hard, and I did it in order to restore the drunkenness into the mortal world. I also had to choose a maiden in order to make her the bride of true liquor. That's when I started screwing up things. I didn't choose. What? But that girl, Gypsy spoke in confusion. She freed herself from eternal servitude. I held a small competition for those who want to be the bride, and all the girls competed for it. The one who won was the one who had the strongest willpower to leave. I guess she has been there for quite a long time. Sanguine laughed faintly. You have no idea. I see. Well, I also didn't drink a drop from that true liquor. John added. Impossible. Gypsy shouted. I saw you drink from it almost all the time. Was I? John asked. This liquor would have surely affected me if consumed, and I needed a sober head. That's all about the sphere of drunkenness. What about the sphere of corruption? Sanguine asked. In the spirit of universally corrupting everything, you play the role of the serpent constellation that tries to corrupt all the 12 constellations. Then you sexually ravage those girls that represent these constellations. John said, so instead of ravaging them, I seduced them. But in the abode, they were all completely wasted after sleeping with you. Gypsy said. Oh, I didn't even touch them, but go ask them and see how they will describe what they felt. John winked while speaking in confidence. But enough. Sanguine stopped Gypsy before saying anything. The tournament of the 100 Bloods was the most obvious one. You made the killers kill themselves, and you were the one to offer the first and the 100th soul. Exactly. What a cunning mortal. Sanguine said in anger, but soon calmed down. I think I have to reforge the laws of the myriad realms again. My reward, please. John demanded. Damn you, mortal. Here. Sanguine snapped his fingers, and the space started to get agitated. In a few seconds, the void broke a few times, and some minor artifacts appeared, which were basically a few amulets, belts, rings, gloves, and a couple of boots. Pick what you want, mortal. Seeing the artifacts floating all around, John simply activated the system and read all their information. Amulet of Sanguine Enterprise. Fortify prices. Amulet of Sanguine Glib Speech. Fortify Speechcraft. Amulet of Sanguine Nimble Armor. Fortify Mage Armor. Belt of Sanguine Balanced Armor. Fortify Light Armor. Belt of Sanguine Deep Biting. Fortify Melee Damage. Belt of Sanguine Denial. Fortify Defense. Belt of Sanguine Fleetness. Fortify Speed. Belt of Sanguine Hewing. Fortify Swordsmanship. Belt of Sanguine Sureflight. Fortify Archery. Belt of Sanguine Impaling Thrust. Fortify Spearmanship. Belt of Sanguine Martialcraft. Fortify Smithing. Belt of Sanguine Smiting. Fortify Blunt. Belt of Sanguine Stolid Armor. Fortify Heavy Armor. Glove of Sanguine Swift Blade. Fortify Dagger. Glove of Sanguine Horny Fist. Fortify Unarmed. Glove of Sanguine Safekeeping. Fortify Lockpicking. Ring of Sanguine Fluid Evasion. Fortify Evasion. Ring of Sanguine Golden Wisdom. Fortify Alteration. Ring of Sanguine Green Wisdom. Fortify Restoration. Ring of Sanguine Red Wisdom. Fortify Destruction. Ring of Sanguine Transcendence. Fortify Conjuration. Ring of Sanguine Transfiguring. Fortify Enchanting. Ring of Sanguine Silver Wisdom. Fortify Illusion. Ring of Sanguine Sublime Wisdom. Fortify Alchemy. Ring of Sanguine Unseen Wisdom. Fortify Mysticism. Shoes of Sanguine Leaping. Fortify Leaping. Shoes of Sanguine Stalking. Fortify Stealth. A total of 27 artifacts were on display. They were all pretty minor, but they were either created from ebony and spider silk that originated from Mephala herself. Without even thinking, John brought out a large sheet of clothing and waved it across the air, collecting all 27 of the pieces in. Mortal, what are you? Sanguine seemed to have been intending to give John just one, but the greed of a single mortal left a Daedric prince in utter awe. Thanks for your patronage. If you have anything good or more beautiful girls to give away, you know where to find me. John put the purse of artifacts on his shoulder and took the girl in his other hand, walking away. Don't be so hasty. Sanguine called. Going back on your words now. John looked back. No, I was just thinking of ruining your mood a bit. Sanguine said with a dirty smile that made John feel suspicious. What is it? He asked. Nah, not a real problem, at least on my part. But are you really sure you are taking that girl away with you? Sanguine said, pointing at the nameless girl. I am sure she knows or feels what will happen when she leaves this place. John looked between the girl and Sanguine, trying to hastily pick up what he may have missed. On the other hand, the girl had this rare look of emotion on her apathetic face. What's wrong? John asked her. Oh, how nice it is to be all mortal and puny, caring for each other. Sanguine clasped his hands. This little empty shell is simply a thing that I've kept around since, well, I guess she is one of the oldest. She truly feels like leaving after all that time. But what will happen if she leaves after the merciful Lord Sanguine, was keeping her alive for a few millennia? Why don't you tell him? The nameless girl returned apathetic again, but she looked at John and spoke. I will die, she said. John looked at her right in the eye and saw a rare resolve in them. Ah, you mortals deal with separation so intimately. Go on, embarrass yourselves. Rage and say one of those human punchlines at me. Sanguine laughed. All right. On the other hand, John seemed to have respected the wish of the nameless girl. What the? Sanguine became like someone who suddenly swallowed a fly. We are leaving. John took her and started preparing a portal back to Nirn. You, give me that. While that was happening, Sanguine used his authority to restore the ewer of true liquor which the girl was carrying this whole time. The ewer flew from her hands to his. This liquor belongs to me. Sanguine said in a ruined mood now that he couldn't ruin John's. John simply looked at Sanguine chugging from the ewer, and as he noticed the girl turn around, he saw her smile mischievously. What an innocent mischievousness she had. At that moment, Sanguine started to violently cough. Gypsy was standing beside him looking at the ewer, which clearly had the crystal-clear true liquor. She was not believing that a liquor was strong enough to make the Prince of Liquor himself back down. Just what is that thing John was drinking so far? What is that cough cough? You replaced the liquor with this rotten vodka? Sanguine was trying to get whatever he drank out of his system. John smiled, almost laughing. It is vinegar pussy. Chapter 567, long awaited. North of Cyrodiil. It was very early in the morning as a portal opened up, stirring up the chilling air of the morning. The moisty land had a pair of footprints, one bare and the other booted, as it all went towards the ruins on the mountain. The ruins were as ancient as they were magnificent. The endless broken towers, the piling moss, the tomb beyond the tomb, the walls that are barely left standing. Everything he was long since dead, yet so filled with memories, emotions, and echoes of frozen past. The ruins of Sankertor, the golden hill of St. Alessia, Reman Cyrodiil, and Tiber Septim. Here used to be the pottery market. There is stone where the lords and ladies spoke. That it was a house, said the fading woman. John simply followed, looking around. This is Sankertor, not just a city from the ancient past, but it is the birthplace and the resting place of everything human. Just like Sarthal of Winterhold, Sankertor of Cyrodiil had the same history and the same fate. Long ago, there lived a human slave in a city of slaves and slavers. The woman was Ael Alesh, High Highness, or simply Alessia, Saint Alessia. What she did simply changed the world. This is the holy ground where Alessia started the slave rebellion of Cyrodiil against the high elves of the Heartland and established the Empire, humanity's first hegemony over the most important land on Tamriel. In this same ground, and after 2,000 years, Alessia, who is sainted by Shazar, or Akatosh, appeared to a mighty Nordic warlord who mated with her in the earth, impregnating the very land of Cyrodiil. The offspring of the bond was Reman Cyrodiil, who was born from a golden hill with the amulet of kings on his head. 1,000 years after, Tiber Septim conquered this old citadel and died fighting here before his ascendance right at this spot in this world. Sankertor, a name that would conjure legends of a gloomy graveyard that holds the images of heroes and the ghosts of villains. But this woman never knew of any of this. To her, Sankertor is nothing but a place of memories, for a bird shall fly the 7 heavens and still know its home. This is it. It is all. Everything is here. She was happy, genuinely happy. What she lost is returning to her amidst the ghosts of the past and the sands of lost time. The reality she lives is not what John sees. She saw the people she once knew, the things that were once there, and the magic of an olden past. Thank you. And she perished, she faded in time, for nothing is supposed to last what she lasted. That is a good ending, he said, an ending I hope to have. He turned around to leave, but she reappeared again. You are not leaving me, are you? John asked the ghost that returned, but he knew that was no longer her. It is his longing for purity, his redemption of the sins. You wish to take away my sin? He asked. I have 7 of them, for I am a sinner man. Take it if you wish. It is about time someone bears the damnable lust. John opened his hand, and the last image of lust the small gem it turned to be flew towards the image of that woman and landed on her forehead and remained there. The apparition became real, and the nameless girl became nameless no more. "Say your name," John asked. "Venus," she replied. The true last form of lust became that woman which John found appealing to the eye. The nameless girl from before was a very unfortunate young woman who was offered a sanguine and kept as his trophy for long ages. She was freed by John, and on his way out of oblivion, he asked her to remember her home, and she described the citadel on the hill beneath the mountains ruled by slavers and filled with slaves. Such a place could only be Sancretor. When she came to the mortal world, she could no longer sustain herself due to exceeding her lifespan and her soul yearning for the life she had, fading away to dust. Only a ghost couldn't escape this reality and remain behind to haunt no one but the one who brought it here, John. The haunted simply offered another alternative to the soul of the poor girl. Be one with him and live in the light, doing what she does best, bringing men and women to their knees. Lust gave her a vessel to inhabit and a purpose to follow, while she gave lust a personality to embrace and a warmth to touch. "Hillman, you got a pet?" Nefertiti appeared on his shoulder, looking at the appearance of lust with interest. "I plan to keep her around," he said. "Good, a new servant." She jumped on Venus and rested between her arms. "Make her take me around." "You lazy cat." John shook his head wryly, but didn't really disapprove as he felt the urge to ruffle the fluff of Nefertiti while she enjoyed it. He then caressed the face of Venus as he felt actual warmth from it. "It indeed feels nice," he said, dismissing the fact that this is just an illusion, a perfect one still, as lust was still the only real form in this whole thing. "Let's go home." John turned around to leave back to the portal, but he stopped as he felt a presence. He simply stood amidst the graves and the ruins, looking to the side until a band of 3 appeared. "Who goes there?" The voice of an elf sounded. "Show yourself, wait." "That's a woman." 3 elves in Dominion armor showed up with their blades drawn. All they saw was a human woman of enchanting appearance. Her appearance was so captivating despite not being the most beautiful woman in the world, but she just went straight to their heart and clouded their minds and judgment. She wore too little, only what she wore when she followed John during his journey, a simple shirt and nothing else, but she had that gemstone fixed to her forehead. Nefertiti felt annoyed by the appearance of the elves, as Dominion armor was something she knew well. When she looked at John to ask his permission to kill, she found him simply gesturing for her with a finger over his lips to stay silent. Lust was not a sin suitable for combat, but with Venus around, things turned rather interesting. He was just standing there in the shadow of a wall, completely unseen, while Nefertiti moved towards him to see what he wanted to do. Meanwhile, the 3 Dominion soldiers walked while holding their breath towards the woman they saw. Is it truly a human? Such presence, this woman isn't normal. Be careful. She can be a worshiper of Talos. Let's interrogate her. The 3 moved with conflicted intentions towards the silent woman, who was simply looking at them slowly, being intoxicated by her aura. She made their minds feel numb and their instincts to go off the closer they got. "Venus, show me what you got." John whispered his will, wanting to see how his sin turned from the weakest one to the most effective. Venus heard, and she swayed left and swayed, right like a dancer. The 3 elves stumbled left and right with her without even realizing what got to them. She did a spin, and while doing so, the simple shirt on her turned into a dress red of color with all the illusions she was capable of. The elves were so much under her spell now, as they could no longer help but stand still in a deep trance. She moved at them with no killing intent or any bloodlust. The moment she stood between them, they all started lusting and forgetting what they were. The 3 surrounded her, and she touched their faces and necks, firmly making them her thralls, and then she held the sword hand of one of them, pointing the blade it carried to the neck of the other. The blade slid slowly through the neck of the elf by his friend's hand, and none of the 3 felt anything. Even the one dying was doing nothing but trying to keep up with his eyes, focusing on her figure while he was dying on the ground. and the Sen stabbed the third the same way, leaving only one dancing with her as she walked behind him, holding his sword hand with its blade to his neck. Slit. Swoosh. The moment Venus made the blade go past the neck of the third elf, an arrow broke through the air and pierced through the waist of Venus from one side, passing clearly to the other. Nothing happened. Venus only disappeared like a ghost, and Lust flew back to John in a beeline. The three elves were now dead, but a fourth appeared holding a bow. He saw his three companions lying dead with their throats gushing warm blood. Shit, 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 shit. A killer is hiding. Gather here. He started shouting in panic, gathering the rest of the Dominion soldiers and the Thalmor justiciars, fortifying the old ruins. But as they arrived, they found a red-headed demi-giant standing behind the archer and twisted his neck the wrong way. Wrath, lust, greed, pride. I have piled up a lot of stress. Offer me another massacre. Winterhold. This is all for the situation, Mistress Alina. An agent said in utmost respect. Tell Joliner to try to open the negotiations once again. We can't afford to have the roads busy with refugees over that stalemate the war is putting us into. She gave her command before the agent left. Now that she's all alone in the balcony surrounding the upper part of the tower, she found nothing to do except walking around the large area and starting to trim the thorns of the flowers she was growing around the place. She was in her home robes, long red silk robes that arrived at Winterhold from Hammerfell as a gift from Prince Karim of Strozmkai. As Alina enjoyed expensive things the most, she monopolized all the beautiful gems and clothes, sparing few for the other girls. Her self-centered attitude was expected from her as the wife and the mistress of the Dare household. But the master of the house has gone to party in oblivion. The mere thought made Alina clip the flowers violently when she thought of it. The situation on the South Road must be very stressful for you, wife. John said. Yes, you insolent bastard. If only you were here to take care of your wife, instead of swinging your dick around. Wait. She turned around. You are here. John looked at her as he was covering Nefertiti's ear and looking seriously at her. Language. She rolled her eyes in exhaustion and put away the clippers as she walked to him and took Nefertiti away. How is my little girl? Did that bad Homan drag you into one of his stupid escapades again? Come with me. Let's stay away from him. Alina walked away with Nefertiti inside the tower while John was watching with interest. As they disappeared inside, he took an apple from the nearby table and sat on the seating area, stretching his body over the couch, overlooking the city down below while bracing for impact. Alina walked out again as he expected and walked towards him with long strides and an upset face. You unfaithful man, how many girls did you fuck? Huh? Answer me. She asked. John gestured with one finger, then added another. 2. Only 2. Weren't you supposed to be in Sanguine's realm? Well, let me tell how it all went down from the start. As his habit, John spilled all the beans to Alina from the moment he entered oblivion to the moment he left. Her expressions shifted between indifference towards the ordeal of the Daedra, then pity towards the situation of the Maidens of True Liquor, then to a hysterical laugh when it came to how John played Sanguine around, and finally to deep anger when she heard of how Sanguine intended to trick John. In the end, I only slept with the maiden I freed and analyzed the woman who tried to trick me. I guess I'm safe? I'll overlook the analysis for now, but that girl you freed, I want my share. She demanded. You will have it, he said. I just sent her to deal with the situation regarding the skirmish of the Stormcloaks and the Imperials on our borders. She has that much power? Heh, you have no idea. John managed to pull Alina close to him as she simply laid down beside him. What will you do about the Daedra? Alina asked. Sanguine won't bother me. He had his fun, and I had mine. Aside from that, there is Clavicus Vile. From what I understood, he was the one who suggested this folly to Sanguine. I still have his dog in a cage, though. John said, Master Nerina won't be happy. She won't. The two of them nodded. At that moment, Alina remembered something important. Right, a report arrived an hour ago. She said as she retrieved a piece of paper. It seems that your prophecies are correct again. That jester you spoke of appeared close by the Lorius farm on the road between White Run and the Pale. John heard those words, and his lazing body regained its vigor almost instantly. He finally appeared? I thought I missed him. John's reaction was very serious now. What happened? Alina asked, seeing her husband act like that. Let's go. I want you to meet that jester. Bring Joe along. John quickly changed into his traveling gear and started to open a portal. The man he was waiting for finally showed himself. Cicero has appeared. Chapter 568, Beth's Initiation Ceremony. Ack, bother and befuddle. Stuck here. Stuck. My mother. My poor mother. Unmoving. At rest, but too still. Cicero. See? I told you. John. Wah. That guy's a total nutjob. Joel. In a bush nearby, both John and Alina, as well as Joliner, were hiding together, with John adding an extra layer of stealth by holding two branches. I'm starting to get it. Something about jesters being in distress is so appealing to you two. Alina said, looking at the two beside her with cold eyes. It is fun, John said. No, this is a guy who got his wagon broken while transporting his mother, and the farmers nearby are not being neighborly. Alina protested. Wife, long story short, he is the bad guy. John explained. A jester is a bad guy. You of all people shouldn't. Alina said something, then looked between John and Joliner and became silent. Ouch, that hurts. Joliner reacted to the way Alina thinks of them both now. What should we do about him then? Alina asked. I wouldn't show him my face, not yet. Lust is not with me at the moment, so I'm not dealing with him. John said, I don't think you can tolerate him in a conversation either, wife. This leaves Psycho. Alina pointed to Joliner. All right, I'll do it. Joliner casually agreed, then disappeared quietly from their side. Not too far ahead, she appeared on the road and changed her appearance a bit to resemble a traveler using her disguise technique. She then walked quietly and approached the jester in distress. Mother. Poor mother. Cicero is helpless. Helpless. The jester, who was standing beside a wagon with a broken wheel, started making a tragic play as he leant over the large coffin he was transporting. Did that will break on you, Sarah? Joliner approached the jester and spoke. No, I deliberately broke it. Of course it got broken. Damnedest wagon wheel. Poor Cicero can't transport his mother, his sweet, sweet mother. Cicero replied in dramatic agony. She's quite dead, though. Joliner pointed out. Of course she is. She can't be anything but dead. It is just Cicero being good, being filial. Mother's old crypt is no longer suitable. Too dusty, too rusty, and too cold to warm her bones. But we can't go anywhere until I fix this damnable wheel and that damnable farmer that refuses to help, which is damnably driving me insane. Arg! Cicero screamed from frustration, then swiftly changed his mood and clasped his hands together, looking at Joliner. Charitable soul, generous soul, can't you help me? Joliner tilted her head. Me help you? Yes. What? Cicero will give you coins. Gleamy shiny. Nope. My husband said to never take money from strangers. Or was it sweets? Crackle. A bolt of lightning manifested in midday and landed on the mountain nearby, causing all the wildlife to panic. This happened in sync with Alina snapping the two branches she was holding with just her thumb after hearing the word husband. Dude, John looked at her, but she glared at him, causing him to look away. Back to the grinning Joliner. She was enjoying both making Alina furious and messing with the jester. If you don't want coins, then what do you want? Cicero asked. Actually, I was trying to pick up that jester trick when you guys make a stick stand on your nose, then drop it on your chin, then back to your forehead. Quite tricky. Oh, and I also want to learn how to make things disappear without any magic. Actual magic, I mean. Oh, pretty easy. The first trick is a bit practical, so it will take some time training, but the second one is quite easy. If you don't want them to see anything, just poke their eyes. Oh, that's right. Why didn't I think of that? I mean, I had that thing in the past. Bad times. Yeah, I'll help you now. What do you need? Right. Go to the farm, the Lorius farm. Got it, Jelena said as she walked past Cicero. But I haven't told you what to. Nah, I got you, bro, totally, she said and ran towards the farm. Jelena entered the Lorius farm and returned with a farmer walking in front of her in a moment. The man was sweating profoundly and quite shaky as Jelena walked by him with a broad smile. He fixed the wheel and set it back in a few minutes, and even helped tie the horse to the wagon, while Cicero was showing Jelena how to kill someone by putting an apple on their head and tossing a knife. Oh, stranger, you have made Cicero so happy, so jubilant and ecstatic. But more, even more, my mother thanks you, the jester said as he rode his wagon and departed. Meanwhile, Jelena waited in her place, and the farmer was shivering not far from her. Oh, lady, piss off. The farmer ran away back to his farm, while John and Alina appeared near Jelena. Sigh, my mother told me once that we had relatives in Cyrodiil, Jelena said with a sigh. I'm sure none of them are jesters, John said as he removed a droplet of blood from Jelena's face with a finger. Chicken blood? That was fun for a moment there, but don't scare the common people again, Alina scolded Jelena. Sister, you are the wife they love. I am the wife they fear, Jelena said, teasing Alina even more. You little skank. Alina tried to punch Jelena before the latter could run away, but catching Jelena is simply too difficult with her current ability. It was fun, but I will head to Rift Inn now, Jelena's voice echoed as her presence completely faded. Alina held her head in frustration and turned to John. So, a jester going crazy. What's the big deal about him? She asked. Him, aside from being a member of the Brotherhood, there is nothing special about him, John replied. Wait, the Brotherhood? The Dark Brotherhood? She asked. Yes, I told you I have plans for them. Yes, but why didn't you tell Joel? Well, she impatiently went on her own. Also, I wasn't really trying to get her into that Brotherhood project. Then, my main purpose was to tag the guy with magic. He is traveling on a wagon, and I know his destination quite well, but I need to keep an eye on him. You just said he is not that special. What he is transporting is. What? That's his mother's body. Gross. Alina made a disgusted face. Oh yes, yes indeed. John started to imitate Cicero. But the mother is not just any mother. She was the mother of many children who she actually gave birth to and killed. John's last remark made Alina's eyes widen. Don't tell me. Yes, that's the expression. It is the dark matron herself, John said, and started to contemplate. Just to make it clear, by saying a dark matron, I don't mean Bothia or Namra or Nocturnal or Mephala or Vermina or... Damn, this dark matron title needs someone to claim it once and for all. John, focus. Alina snapped her fingers at his face. Oh, right, it's the Night Mother, he said simply too casually. Alina felt conflicted all of a sudden. On one hand, she could just go and pursue Cicero and his wagon to destroy the Night Mother, or... Are you letting that abomination leave? She asked. What can you do about it? Destroy it? Then you would be making an enemy of an immortal woman who communicates with the world through the void itself. And you'll also be involving Sidis, who is quite a bitch when involved in anything. Alina remained silent after John's reply. I know you can argue with the Daedra princes being forces of nature, but the Night Mother is just evil, husband, Alina said with concern. I know, he nodded. That's why I won't involve anyone other than myself with the matters regarding the Dark Brotherhood. It was one of John's most important decisions. The Dark Brotherhood is not the Thieves' Guild where he got all sorts of connections. It is the bloodiest cult in the entire world, and their quest itself is a major death trap. Thus, John needed to prepare many things first. He returned with Alina to Winterhold and checked on his journal to see how Wulfur, Alina, and Jelena advanced in their missions. Wulfur, of course, was assigned to the companions, Alina in the college and Jelena in the guild. The companion storyline has slowly started to kick in, with Wulfur going every weekend with the companions doing a job or two. The college's situation was by far the most advanced, as the eye was still under investigation, and Alina just started lately to look for any books regarding the eye. The situation in the Thieves' Guild was by far the slowest, since the only thing Jelliner has managed to do is to sabotage the Golden Glow estate. Aside from the factions, the dragons seem to have calmed down a bit compared to before. John doesn't like the calm before the storm, but he had to make the most of it. This day, the main expedition team headed out of Sarthal under the lead of Mjal the Lioness to search for the lost city of Blackreach under Winterhold itself. Truth be told, Blackreach may extend further all the way to Jalmarch across the Pale, making it almost twice the size of any northern hold, or almost as large as Whiterun itself all underground. John accompanied the team during the first day, but they met a lot of obstacles blocking the road around the ruins of Alftand. This caused John to go idle around somewhere else, only to end up in his domain in the island far in the sea. There, he found Nurina and Alfai, as well as Beth. Master, Beth came to see John, who was outside the town most of the time lately. Here you are. How is our little protégé? John asked as he rubbed the head of the bald girl. I've been studying hard lately. I have memorized the theory of the unity of schools and the other schools of thought. Oh, arcane philosophy? My favorite of all time, John said as he went forward to greet Nurina and Alf. Master, Grandmaster, look who's here. If it is not the self-important newest arch-wizard. Alf mocked John. Shut up, Alf. Nurina said, John, you finally came. It is time to start the initiation ceremony. Oh, John rubbed his hands in anticipation as he ran to sit beside Nurina. I wouldn't miss this for the world. They were all in a forest clearing inside his domain, sitting on a large lying tree trunk while in front of them stood Beth. Let's make this official, Nurina said. Back when it was John's initiation ceremony, it was only me and him. Little Beth has more luck, as not only her master is here, but also her grandmaster and her great-grandmaster. This makes her a fifth generation in the magic school of Grandmaster Divaith FYR. Alf nodded in approval as she witnessed the magic skill of Beth just the other day and praised her dedication to the craft. Seeing Beth come such a long way, John felt immensely proud. A girl whom luck was so dire to get killed and be revived because of the scheme of some Daedra, then get abandoned by Bothia once her mission is done. It all left a bad taste after his last labor. Now that he adopted her as an apprentice, she has shown a great promise so far. Even though still unable to grow hair with magic due to her unique bloodline, she is now a long shot from the person she was before, making her not only the youngest, but one of the most dedicated people John has behind him. As the eldest, I give permission for the ceremony to begin, Alf said and turned to John. Youngster, have you prepared the thing? I did he replied, followed by an evil laugh as he took out a large mace made of wood and had multiple steel teeth lined on it. John simply handed it to Beth. What should I do with that, Master? By long tradition, this cudgel will be the tool of your initiation ceremony exam, he said. And your exam will be, Nurina raised her staff and started making a dark magic cloud with it before casting a summon. Make that thing cry. The summon was complete, and what walked out was a Dremora, not just any Dremora. The ultimate test is to make a Daedric creature cry. They can't submit, they can be defeated, they can even be cowardly, but they can never cry. It is not Daedra pride or anything, but Daedra doesn't possess tear glands. Beth said, I can't imagine how painful it is not to be able to moisten their eyes, but that's the test, Baldy. Now be creative, John said as he watched Beth trying to figure this one out. Swoosh, swoosh, bang. Without hesitating anymore, Beth started trying the cudgel on the Dremer's face. The creature was infuriated and tried to retaliate, but he was quite disadvantaged against the nimble Beth. She tackled him down and started to flatten him using the cudgel, which caused a lot of blood to splash left and right. It is said that by using this method, the Daedra are quickly to lose their rank in the Daedra society they come from. Alf said, True. John here was very brutal with the Daedra that I summoned for him back in the day. He said that if the Dremora doesn't have tears, they can use blood to cry with. Nurina added. Yes, but what about that thing about Deidre losing rank? John asked. Deidre are mostly indifferent to being summoned by humans. Those who get summoned are already disgraced, but those who are summoned and beaten down to tears are forever shamed. Nurina explained. I see. Nurina, you were quite good at your ceremony as well. I still remember that Deidre you tortured. It was quite the spectacle ordering him to grow tear glands. Alf said in nostalgia. Yes, I remember him. What was his name again? Zick something? Ah, old times. Nurina seemed to be agreeing with Alf. Meanwhile, John heard the name and preferred to stay silent. Now that he thinks of it, he never mentioned to Nurina that the Daedric Titan he summons is called Zykel. Then again, that guy has quite the low self-esteem. It can be some similar name, though. What are the chances, anyway? Chapter 569, Gluttony 1. Oblivion, the Hollow City. During the past 2 years, the Hollow City was finally establishing itself to be a safe zone in hell like it once was 1,000 years ago. After John liberated the city from the realm of Cold Harbor, causing it to become its own realm, the Hollow City expanded as soul-shriven inhabitants were fighting for it as their eternal salvation. More to that, a temporary portal would open every month to trade goods between the city and people who came from Tamriel. Those, of course, are the people of the Dare Dragon Company, but never really revealed that name in Oblivion for discretion purposes. The DDC would send goods and food to the Hollow City in exchange for cold iron and materials that can only be harvested in Oblivion. Of course, it is illegal to conduct business in Oblivion, especially after the Oblivion Crisis, and opening such dangerous portals is very prohibited, so John made sure to place that portal in a cave under the sea. If the Daedra ever managed to discover the Hollow City and cross to the mortal world from it, a safety mechanism would completely sink the underwater cave and send a terrifying splash of water pressure to the other side of the portal. So with these security measures at hand, John would find no problem dealing with anything related to the realm. After 2 years, John stepped foot once again in the Hollow City, which looked completely different now. Sir Cadwell and his Pale Knights Order have started doing actual raids against the realm of Cold Harbor. John couldn't believe it, but that calculative and cunning old soul was actually freeing more slaves from Molag Bal in order to increase the number of his soul-shriven comrades, and as he said, he is searching for the fresh ones. The soul-shriven of Cold Harbor are people who used to be mortals, but Molag Bal has tempered with their souls, taking away their Anuic animus and replacing it with a Daedric one like the Daedra. It makes the soul-shriven almost immortal, but at what cost? They had an expiration date to their minds. After they die a few times in the extensive torture of Cold Harbor, their minds become completely broken and they turn feral. Those ferals are used by the Daedra as labor animals and cattle in the best cases. What Sir Cadwell was looking for was people who haven't died even once and had the ability to preserve their minds like himself. After all, he has lived, technically as a soul-shriven, longer than anyone or anything, putting him in a close age to people like Divaith FYR. Whatever the result, John didn't have that much hope regarding the soul-shriven. As long as they are useful, he will conduct business with them. If they're not, he will cut ties right away. But there was one thing important that made him be appreciative of the fact that he has soul-shriven on his side. In the Hollow City, John discovered that Surana Fokihar, princess of the vampire clan Fokihar, has left him a message. Your spell has been broken, but I recovered the thing you left behind. My father is calm on the outside, but his rage will be directed towards you once the castle reaches the mortal world once again. Be warned. Take those who are close to you and flee. I don't wish for my father to possess the power you can grant him. Cold words after cold words, making John sigh between every sentence as if he was being pitted. Where's that Zykel? John threw the message in the fire and started looking for someone to vent some stress on. Jax, who accompanied John in the Hollow City, pointed out towards the edge of the realm where the waters of Oblivion edged the reality. John arrived there and found Zykel having some quality time bossing some soul-shriven miners around. Look who's here. If it is not our friend Zykel, whom we totally ran into by chance and totally weren't looking for him on purpose, John said as he made himself visible to Zykel. Jax snorted, knowing the sadistic nature of his master is obviously up to no good again. Meanwhile, the Daedric Titan, that is Zykel, tried to slide away, silently acting as if he didn't notice John. "Hey, I am right here, you asshole." Naturally, John left no leeway for him. "Aha, aha, mortal, what are you doing here?" Zykel turned around feeling like he would bury himself if he could. "Why are you stuttering, old friend? If I wasn't here to reward you, I would have thought you were thinking I am here to bully you or something," John said as he pulled the horn of the Daedric Titan down by one hand. "Come on, mortal. Last time you summoned me was the most shameful of all. I got killed in less than a minute." Zykel couldn't believe John. "Exactly. Last time you were against a real dragon, you idiot. It is praiseworthy you lasted a few seconds." John slapped Zykel's forehead and continued, "That's why I will bestow a gift upon you today." Seeing John all excited, Zykel didn't let his guard down and replied with narrowed eyes. "What kind of reward would it be? Take a wild piss. I don't know. You never rewarded me. You unloyal bastard. How could you forget that I bestowed upon you this body of Daedric Titan, making you the coolest Daedra in Oblivion, and sat your revival location here, so that you never get caught by Molag Bal? TSK, 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 TSK. Jax, this child has become too unruly. Yes, yes. Master must see to re-educate him." Jax nodded. "Arg, I get it. What do you want from me, mortal?" Zykel decided he can no longer escape the tragedy about to befall. "Zykel, we have known each other for 3 years now. Aside from turning you into a Titan, I am now going to turn you into something new," John said brightly. "Hold up. I very much like being Titan." Zykel started shaking his head and backing away. "Oh, don't get me wrong, me too. I'm only going to give you an extra ability," John said. "You see, I have been experimenting with Daedric Prince's spheres of power lately, and I have come to discover some interesting new things. I have been hiding you here in this realm for some time now, so that Molag Bal doesn't notice you, but I can now break you from his influence." "Huh? Come on, Zykel. Don't you want to live freely? You are basically a slave to Molag Bal, but you can break that bond now, once I remold you." John's offer sounded too good to be true at that. Zykel thought of the best-case scenario and asked a certain question. "How painful will it be?" John's sly smile crumbled and gave out a long sigh. "You see, that's what I hate about Daedra hanging around mortals too often. They can get some brains after all," John said as he looked coldly at Zykel. "I knew it." Zykel seemed proud of his achievement, exposing John, but he soon came to regret it. Plan B. Out of nowhere, Jax threw out a long orichalcum chain over Zykel, which caused the Daedric Titan to panic, but on the other side, Wrath appeared and received the other end of the chain. In a few swift movements, the chain was wrapped around Zykel, binding his legs, hands, wings, and mouth. "Ku'omol, curse you, mortal. Who told you to use your brain, you fool?" John said as he opened a portal with pride, while putting on the mask, Krylin, and donning greed as a cloak. "Didn't you have an overkin sister who works the Black Forge in Cold Harbor? Let's go pay her a visit." What John did a while ago was something, and what he said just now was an entirely new form of horror. Zykel is used to John's bullying, but there is one that he fears above all else. His sister. The Black Forge was a place famed in Oblivion for being the most unfortunate spot a Dremora or a Soul Shriven can be assigned to. It is basically hell incarnate. The Soul Shriven would be used like animals to transport and rotate the mills under the whip of the Dremora slavers. Even the undead would receive better treatment compared to what the Soul Shriven get. On the other hand, the Dremora workers of the Forge would work day and night in folding metal and shaping weapons. The overseer of this hellhole is Vixalai, Zykel's sister. For Daedra to become brothers and sisters is not something unusual. Zykel and Vixalai were from the same patch that was created from the chasm of Oblivion. As they were adopted in the same Draymora clan, they were considered churls together and dreamt about vanquishing mortals together. Still, reality was too cruel since Zykel was very frequent to get summoned by mortal wizards, while Vixalai found her opportunity in the Black Forge. Over time, Zykel became a low-ranking Draymora, while Vixalai became an overkin, a noble among the nobles of Oblivion. But one day, an invader broke in a cold harbor, and Zykel disappeared for almost 3 years, yet on this very day, Vixalai could finally sense Zykel nearby. Shaka, Aksuka, bring me my hammer, not the forging hammer, the disciplining hammer. Vixalai shouted as her assistants ran around to bring her a very sinister hammer that she can wield properly with one hand. Vixalai's appearance is not that different from any female Daedra. She is bald, mean-looking, ugly, and definitely with some bone spores and horns on her head. Aside from that, her outfit was made of Daedroth leather with a lot of nails and coming out from it, and had many piercings on her nose, cheeks, tongue, and ears. She is basically a metalhead, even among the Draymora. As she walked towards the direction she expected to meet Zykel, her troublemaker brother, she felt something really ominous. An unnatural amount of power, an endless stream of energy focused on a small point to create the most destructive pressure ever, an unrelenting force that can make anyone feel the absolute creeps. All that power landed on the front gate of the Black Forge, blowing it open with a bang. Well, it is as if I only was here yesterday. The voice of a mortal echoed around the forge, displaying a terrifying amount of power that would stun your average Daedra motionless. Not on my watch. Vixalai roared in anger, seeing her turf being invaded. Such insolence hasn't happened in 3 years, and she is still angry about it. Now that it happened again, there is no way this would go unpunished. She charged to the gate only to witness one of the most bizarre scenes ever. Hundreds of her kin were lying around motionless while a man was standing over them holding nothing but a staff. To make it all weirder, there was a Daedric Titan, one of the top Daedric creatures, tied with chains and being dragged by 2 strange entities. One was a bone colossus and the other a minotaur. A mortal, a beast, an undead, and a Daedra. If that's not an intercultural assembly of some sort, then Vixalai wouldn't know what kind of situation she's facing. Still, that mortal has a particular mask, something that many Daedra are familiar with. The Mask of Krylin, something that belongs to a human mercenary named Krylin who angered Molag Bal quite badly. It was also the man whom she suspects of kidnapping Zykel. Vixalai ran towards John, swinging her hammer at him, but all John needed to do is to kick her away. The difference in power was overwhelming. 3 years ago, this man known as Krylin had to outsmart her in order to escape with the cold iron he came to steal, but now, she didn't even last a single exchange. You abhorrent mortal, Lord Molag Bal will personally come after you. You think you can cause trouble in his realm and walk away like last time? She stood up, not that much hurt from the kick, while glaring and shouting. The Draymora of the realm started to gather towards her and circled John with their blades and spears. I'll give you this warning only once. Stay out of my way while I do my business and leave you in peace. John said in total arrogance. Oomph. Get him. Vixalai roared. John took a few steps ahead, implying that he will take them all by himself. The Draymora couldn't resist the challenge, and all charged at John with the intent to cut him to pieces. Fools! John had only one word to say as he called out a small hammer in his hand. He raised it effortlessly and then descended with it on the ground, hitting it once, twice, thrice to no end. The hammer was small, the hits her performed weren't even that powerful, but for some reason, the land was shaking. In the next instant, strange figures came from the ground, wreaking havoc in the army or Draymora surrounding him. Metal Atronax. Retreat. We can't defeat them. This mortal is treacherous. Damn you mortals. Dishonorable bastards. The Draymora were so angry as John seemed to have conjured an army of his own. Metal Atronax, no less. An Atronac is an elemental Daedra golem, but the term golem has fallen out of favor since many Atranacs possess lives of their own. Still, this wouldn't apply to a metal Atranac. They are artificial golems through and through. How John created so many so fast was the mystery of the day, but it all can be attributed to the small hammer he was carrying and his ability to control an enormous number of summons. Deadland Hammer, Daedric. Create iron Atranacs. Hazardous touch. Clean the place, John said, and the metal Atranacs started making loud metal screeching as they moved towards the Daedra. A metal Atranax is simply a walking pile of scrap and metal ore. They looked like frost Atranacs, but by their metallic nature alone, they were the ultimate ground force any conjurer would dream of controlling. In mere minutes, the Draymora of the Black Forge were being stomped down and pushed back to the fire pits that exist all around the forge. Only Vixali and a handful of Draymora remained. Filthy, bleeding mortal, I'll make you suffer. Even when cornered, the Draymora were a relentless bunch ready to fight till the end. Still, only one man was able enough to make racist comebacks at those Daedra, putting them into their natural place as lesser beings to mortal kind. Lowly Draymora creatures, your kind is one pain in the ass, yet scamps have more use than you are. John said. Say that again, mortal. The Draymora that just spoke flew out of his place right to the hand of John, being held up from the neck. For a fake life form with fake souls, you have a lot of goddamn ego, John said and turned to Vixali. Tell me, Draymora, if I come one day and tell you that the fake souls you have which let you reincarnate endlessly after death can simply be extinguished, will you still have that same ego? Anyone who is present, whether mortal or Daedra, can pretty much tell that the fun John is now gone. When it comes to putting the Daedra in line, John would turn into the meanest, most terrifying creature on Mundus or Oblivion. Still, the words he said about extinguishing the lives of Daedra are simply absurd. You can't kill a Daedric creature unless you're a Daedric prince with powers that transcend. That was where denial ended, and all the stages were slipped right to realization. The Draymora in John's hand now withering. He was turning grayish, then losing all the color of his skin before simply crumbling. What he turned into was simply dust. You're all but dust, and to dust you shall return. Amen. John spoke in full display of his might. The Draymora can tell. They can swear that they saw the red light of their kins be extinguished. They can no longer feel his soul, remember his name, or they can't even see the realm this mortal is standing on. It was a suppression mechanism. Unlike the mortals, Daedra have limits, and these limits are made into their souls to keep them forever as lesser creatures that serve the Daedric princes. They have no shred of potential to speak of, even though they may have desires and emotions. Their emotions were made to give them a sense of their world, but only a mortal can play on these emotions like this. Fear. That's the magic without magica. Led them by fear, and they will never utter a word. John knows how to use fear, even though he hates it, for fear is the weapon on the cowards. Aside from extinguishing Daedric souls, I can very much create a Draymora centipede. Don't look at me like that. It is not as disgusting as the movie. We're just going Hancock style, your head in his ass, and the next, centipede style. No. All right. As long as you know who's boss. There is no longer an escape from a mortal like this. Today, every Daedra in the Black Forge shall know the suffering of their kin, Zykel. Chapter 570, Gluttony 2. Big welcome to our newest guild members. At Jack Allen, C rank. At SHBH0, C rank. At Jesus Hernandez, E rank. For more chapters and info, URL linked e/Donovel or Google at Donovel. Mortal, I shall never forgive you. Vixali roared at John. I frankly don't care. Hold up. You're the sister, right? At that moment, John managed to identify Vixali among the crowd of Draymora that pretty much looked alike to him. The sister, she asked back in confusion. Yeah, Zykel's sister. You? That's right. You were the one who kidnapped him. I always knew this good-for-nothing will fall one day, so low that he will be kidnapped by a mere mortal." Vixalai roared in anger and walked towards John, who felt amused by her ignorance. "Do I have to extinguish a few of your comrades to put you in line as well?" John asked as he exerted his pressure towards her. "Cool." She retreated in front of his brutish aura and fell on one knee. For John to use the chaos infection in order to extinguish the souls of the Daedra was a risky plan, since it may alert the Daedric prince who created that fake animus he destroyed, i.e., Molag Bal. "What do you want?" she asked. "Straight to the point, eh? I like that," John said and looked around. "I came to borrow your forge and some manpower, to be honest." Hearing his absurd demand, Vixalai had to pause a moment in order to realize it. "My forge? Indeed. And my KYN? Pretty much so. You mad?" Since the day I got licked by the Skumacat, John was pretty chill about the whole situation, leaving the Daedra, who are in bad shape, around him in a confused state. "We may obey you if you conjured and bound us, mortal, but we certainly won't forge anything for you, especially the human called Krylin." Vixalai made a firm stance. This wasn't something driven by pride or fear. These are the rules. "How intriguing," John said. "I would certainly be pleased if Vixalai of the Wicked Horns clan, one of the most famous blacksmiths in Oblivion, forged something for me." "You know of me?" she asked. "Zykel is one talkative fellow." John winked. "Arg, this wretched fool. He doesn't even know how to keep a damned secret from a mortal." Vixalai roared in anger. "You can so much extinguish his soul or damn him into a mortal worm." "Wow." John was taken aback by her attitude. "Did you just hear that? Zykel, your sister is a bitch." As he turned around and spoke to the Daedric Titan tied in chains and dragged by a Minotaur and a bone colossus. Vixalai had a weird look on her face while trying to figure out who this Zykel that John just spoke to. Either way, let's just get it over with. I remember the main forge is that way. John signaled for Jax and Wrath to follow him as he walked further into the Black Forge. Meanwhile, Vixalai had this weird idea of what became of her brother. Wait, she hurriedly followed John, who was approaching one of the largest fire pits in the forge. There was a large platform and all manners of extreme forging tools. "This will be perfect," he said, full of excitement as he turned to Zykel. "Aren't you happy as well, Zykel? We will have you set in no time, no worries." At that time, Vixalai caught up to John and saw him talking to the bound Daedric Titan, calling him Zykel. "What have you done to him?" she asked in a face that would have gone pale if not for its Daedric colors. "Oh, him? I switched his vestige from his old body into this magnificent one. As you can see, he is quite powerful at the moment, but still the same old Zykel from inside," John said. Vixalai was looking at the Daedric Titan in disbelief. "I heard that the Daedric Titan who guarded the Hollow City has disappeared indeed, but I never thought it would be," she said as she looked at John. "You could do something like that?" "Yeah, nothing too difficult." John nodded. Vixalai's eyes lit with the color of envy as she gazed at the mighty Titan. "You human, you lack creativity," she said. "Are you telling me that this magnificent body is wasted on some trash like Zykel? I can't believe it." John raised his brows in surprise. "Trash like Zykel doesn't deserve this body. Hey, put me there instead of him. Put me there and let me show you the true power a Dremora over kin can muster." Vixalai was showing a strange side of the Dremora which John never saw before. He knew that the Dremora are the worst of the worst, but they had a strong sense of kinship. Zykel seemed now like an outcast. "So, you want me to cast Zykel out of this body and make you into a Daedric Titan?" "Yes. Do this, mortal. Do this, and I will be in your debt," she said with a wide, confident grin. Well, John looked between Vixalai and Zykel. While Vixalai was confident in her superiority over Zykel, Zykel was unable to do anything but glare with total anger at Vixalai, who asked John to put her soul into the body of the Daedric Titan. Here is the thing about the Daedra creatures in general. They don't have growth or development, so they will never grow stronger no matter what they do. They are born with a certain potential, which when they reach, they never bypass. Having the body of a Daedra Titan means this level can be reinstated to fit the body of a Titan. After all, Titans are on the top of Oblivion's food chain. It was true that Zykel was a failure as a Titan, and she would be stronger than him if given the same chance, but John had another thing in mind. He merely snapped his fingers, and the chains holding Zykel disappeared. At that time, the excited Vixalai saw a large shadow cover her from behind. As she turned around, she saw Zykel glaring at her. "Sister," Zykel spoke solemnly as he looked down on her. "Oomph, you idiot piece of shit. I'll have you know that." Bang! Without even letting her finish her sentence, Zykel raised his hand and struck down towards Vixalai. The result was so gruesome that it can't even be called remains anymore. "Sheesh, that's some gyro hentai for you," John said, nudging the gore mess with the tip of his sword, then turned back to Zykel. "Feeling all right, bud?" Zykel wasn't in any form all right. After getting beaten by John and getting dragged by Jax and Wrath, then being demeaned by Vixalai, there was a psychological limit to even what a Draymora can endure. John's bullying aside, Zykel always thought that Vixalai would one day bust him out of John's control and return him to Cold Harbor as a proud Daedra Titan, but now he lost all faith in his clan. "Your sister was—" "She's not my sister. Not anymore." Even though John was about to act as if consoling him, Zykel took the matter way too dramatically. All right, John wasn't in any mood to get dragged in a Daedra drama, thus he decided to take matters into his own hand. Let's get the fuck started. He grabbed Zykel's tail and, all of a sudden, exerted all his force and is swinging the Daedra Titan right into the fire pit. The scene after Zykel was suddenly swung was covered later in nasty smoke and poisonous eruptions. Mortal, Zykel was even more taken aback by this, as he helplessly tried to escape the fire pit. It wasn't only fire down there, but there was even lava mixed with the blue azure plasm of Cold Harbor, turning it into some sort of blue molten mixture of some serious heat. "Just endure it a bit. I'll lift you up after you soften up," John said as he completely ignored all the ruckus Zykel was doing down there. At that point, he turned away and found a workbench nearby, filled with cold iron and ebony materials. "Jax." "Yes, master." "You and Wrath start looking for any of that famous cold ebony alloy around this forge. Also, capture any Draymora in your way and bring them to me. Wrath, you are authorized to summon undead." Maya Istar. Both of the large monsters started going around doing the errands John gave them. Meanwhile, he took out 2 dragon horns from his cube. And when it says dragon horns, it doesn't refer to the artifact that is a dragon horn which is used to disable dragons, but it refers to actual horns harvested from the corpses of dragons. The dragons John killed so far numbered to 4, and they had a large number of horns on them. "Master, here is the alloy." Jax came by pulling up a large card on his own. "Go check on Zykel." Jax followed John's orders obediently, as he always does, and stood over the edge of the fire pit. "Are you doing all right down there, demon?" he called. "Fuck off, cowhead," Zykel replied in full rage. Jax then turned to John. He said the fire down there is getting cooler. Jax conveyed. That's the spirit. Zykel, that's the spirit boy." John became excited even though he heard everything. It was at this moment when Wrath arrived with a few undead with him, leading a few Draymora who were taken as prisoners. "Wrath, put them on the wheel device over there. It opens the chimney, which supplies the fire pit with more lava, so we can help our boy Zykel down there loosen up." "Maester." The dull-voiced Wrath bowed and glared at the Draymora prisoners. He had to go on and start manning the wheel device. From time to time, he would use a composite whip made of short bones to make the Draymora act more energetic. Nothing is as good at Wrath when handling Draymora. The chimney to the fire pit poured more lava, with Zykel howling from pain. At that moment, John ordered Jax to push in the alloy of cold ebony into the fire pit for its content to melt and encase Zykel over a few minutes. To Zykel, the pain was agonizing. To John, it is a formulated plan that he had in mind for a long time and is finally happening. Now all that he needs is to strike the metal while it's hot. Nefertiti, your turn. From the shade of John, Nefertiti moved through the shadow and transformed into a bolt of shadow energy that encompassed Zykel. Once that was done, she transferred herself upwards and bound him on the large platform as he was struggling and trying to escape. In his hand, John stood over Zykel with the Deadland hammer in his hand while wearing the legendary gauntlet, Wraithguard. He looked down on the struggling Zykel and spoke in a morbid tone. Zykel, my boy, what you experienced a while ago was something, and what you are about to experience is a whole new animal. Are you ready? Zykel wasn't even able to reply. What is that? John tilted his head. He said he is excited. Jax translated. John's eyes moistened as if he was touched by Zykel's spirit and couldn't help but shed a man tear. Boy, I am touched, he said. That's why we will go with double the pain and half the suffering. Good luck. And the Daedland hammer descended on the heated body of the Daedric Titan, which is mixed with a strong Daedric alloy. Tink, tink, tink. For an hour, John kept smiting the body of the Daedric Titan, causing all the impurities in it to be driven out. The bones of a Daedric Titan are made of dragon materials, but since Molag Bal wanted to increase their numbers, he made an imitation of such a material that is impossible to acquire. On the other hand, John had 4 skeletons of dragons which were barely touched, and they were very usable. John imbued the body of Zykel with some fragments of the dragon bones he had and started shrinking the overall size of Zykel. He even used his chaos infection to destroy the influence of Molag Bal over the soul of Zykel. Such a method of arcane craftsmanship was never even used before. A mortal man redesigning one of the Daedric creatures, which were made by a Daedra prince with premium-grade materials. If Molag Bal was to see what John is recreating here, he may even consider giving up on his sphere of brutality. By the end of it, Zykel's body became way smaller, only 3 meters long and almost a ton in weight. Zykel was still under the shadow influence of Nefertiti, which had a role in this great process. At this moment, a naked female Dremora invaded the forging area to witness what was happening. What? What are you doing? Vixalai, come take a look yourself. John invited her in. As a Daedra, Vixalai can reincarnate immediately after death in the nearby Azure Prism. She was still wet due to the process and didn't get the chance to even make herself decent. She walked closer with her eyes open wide, looking at the body lying on her large station, which John was working on. No, you ruined the body, she said with a horrified look. Looking at her, she must be blinded by greed over the possession of the body of a Daedric Titan. It got her to get killed once by the disappointed Zykel, but she seemed to be not giving up yet. Either way, it doesn't sound half bad to him. Whatever. John ignored her. I need you to help me put the last touches. Grab a hammer and hit where I tell you to hit. Mortal, or I will simply have to ruin all your forge and kill everyone here. John added a warning. Guh. Dejectedly, Vixalai grabbed a hammer and followed John's orders by the word. She is a skilled smith, and the way she wielded the hammer far surpassed John, which made him go through the phase of refinement, and she went through the reshaping. With that, the body of a whole new creature was perfectly formed. The face was still the scary one of Daedric Titan. It had the wings from the back and the powerful limbs, but it was much smaller and a few times more terrifying. Jax, bring the horns. The 2 dragon horns which John brought were the core of this process. They were very rich with magicka and vital energy, making them some of the most terrifying materials ever used to forge anything. John ordered Jax to fix them on Zykel's head and Vixalai to start merging them with the head. The final appearance was something to behold. The 2 horns were abnormally large for the face, as they were completely covering the forehead. They rose up in a strange manner, making it look as if they are crowns on his head. Hellboy horns. Zykel himself became fully black from the effect of the cold ebony alloy, being refined with his skin, but now. However, there was one spot that John seemed to have left untouched. When will you reforge that area? Vixalai spoke, pointing at the third large leg between Zykil's two legs. Wait. John looked at her with a horrified face. You want me to hit another man's ahem with a hammer? The size is not fitting well with the body. I was just saying. Vixalai explained. I can see that. John nodded at her with the same horrified look lingering in his eyes before continuing. That's why we're going to use a mold. A mold? She asked. Yes. So you want me to forge one or make one with sand? John was even more horrified by that woman now. Let me ask you something, he said, trying to ascertain something. Is the answer to everything is forge in your head? She looked aside, not sure how to answer before shrugging her shoulders. It depends. That's right. It depends. John said. Males, humans, and most certainly Dremora prefer organic molds. Organic molds? She asked. Duh. Vixalai failed to understand what John was aiming for before having a morbid moment of déjà vu as the shadow of a much larger creature covered her from behind once again. She turned around only to see the newly created Deidre standing on his feet and lifting her up from her head with his index and thumb. Psycho, you wouldn't dare, she said as the Daedric blood ran away from her face. Zykel's twisted expressions were those of absolute cruelty as he replied. As a human once said, bitch I do. And a great thing happened. All right, Zykel, finish up with remolding your little brother and meet me outside. John said as he gathered up his equipment. We are having visitors. John walked out to the entrance of the Black Forge as he felt the presence he was waiting for all along. With Zykel 3.0 now functional, he will finish what he started almost 3 years ago. It is time to meet with the Fokihar vampires. Zykel, Daedric Titan. Soul, Draining Flame. Size Manipulation, new. Dragon Horns, new. For more chapters and info, URL linked /Donovel or Google at Donovel. Chapter 571, Gluttony 3. Just a small announcement. A-rank patrons are now able to access only the next chapter on White restricted from the rest. Also, future novels will be free as 10 CHPS for all, 10 CHPS for rank E, 10 CHPS for rank D. Then the rest is locked and exclusive to the upper ranks. Sorry for the late publishing due to schedule. Enjoy. It was a normal day in Cold Harbor. Deidre screeching, souls suffering, vampires sucking their victims dry. Almost 3 years in this strange state of emptiness and idleness, all because of how things unfolded that day when all Castle Fokihar became trapped here. The thing is that for a domain to be able to travel through realms, it needs power of its own, and John's little trick disturbed the domain's core greatly. Now that the disturbance was lifted, the domain needed more time to regain that energy that was eaten away. Serana liked the waiting in the darkness. Having all that free time to regain her focus and plan on what to do next was something that she really needed. Most of the other vampires went back into hibernation, including her father, Lord Harkon. Only a few were ordered to guard the castle during the period of hibernation, and that included her father's steward, Farron Sudry. He was guarding the castle grounds from any intruder and most certainly keeping an eye on her, as there were doubts about her aiding John in his escape, despite the fact that she returned back and all this, and that happened. Now she only sits out in the balcony of the castle, sipping a certain kind of blood she took fancy to and revisiting her abilities, powers, and the magic she used to know. Between most of the vampires, she was the one who had a record in hibernation for almost 1,000 years. So, asking Serana what is the most interesting thing she did since the time she woke up till now would make her say, definitely that man's escape. It was, and she gazes away looking for the correct set of words, a moment of thrill. It is true that the time she spent with John was short, but an impactful one on her. In what way, though? I never thought of rebelling against one of my parents. I never thought anyone could rebel against them, especially father. He takes these matters quite pridefully. Seeing someone get away from him, and me having to keep up with the lie is indeed something new. It was quite an impactful moment on her character for her. The girl who was always raised to be the good daughter who answers her parents' every wish, and it made her realize that she can get away with anything if she put enough guts into it. Keeping up John's lie, which was about a man named Krylin who kidnapped him, was the thing she enjoyed the most. But why would she risk it? I think I am risking it for the risk itself. To be honest, I am not quite sure. As I said, there was a thrill when he escaped, and I think the only lingering attachment I have from that thrill is the lie. One day I'll be found out, and I can't imagine how my father will react. He'll be disappointed in me, for sure. He will punish me. He will think of mean ways to harm the human and his allies. To be honest, I don't care what happens, but I think I will move at my own pace. This realm suffocates me, to be honest. I want to see Tamriel again. Maybe travel on my own and find what to do with my freedom, if I got any. Serana closed her diary book and playfully dipped her long index nail in a goblet of blood before taking it out and carefully sucking the blood off her finger. In this upstairs private stony room with ancient Gothic furniture, and where there is a balcony overlooking the dim skies of Cold Harbor, she went on fiddling with the things she wrote for the past 3 years. Poems, stories, plans, and sometimes novels and games. She was a writer with nothing but time and thousands of words spinning in her head. Totally nothing like the poor me who's struggling for inspiration nowadays. Yet amidst her zone of thinking about what to write next, and searching for anything small enough to let her inspiration be unleashed, a swarm of bats enter through her balcony and joined up together into the image of a man, a mare, a dark one, glowing eyes, grim and grumpy appearance. Lady Serana, the Lord requests your presence. Farron said, as you can see, I am quite busy. She replied, when I said the word request, I was merely trying to be polite. Farron spoke again, implying the urgency of the matter. Serana gazed at him with her apathetic face as she walked out of the shadows. Her appearance was as if she didn't grow a second since the day John left her, and despite her vampirism, she was good to look at, but her eyes were the things of horror. Such an apathetic gaze with those eyes caused Serana to not appear as the young tender woman she is supposed to be, but rather someone with strange tendencies and a moody personality. Yet all of this was a thing, and the crimson blood silk dress she wore was another thing. It didn't resemble anything of this world, but it was going down with her figure outlining it to every perfect detail. Even her old-fashioned hairstyle was undone since long ago, and she let her hair slide down to the side over her pale, while shoulder. As she spoke, her dark wine lips revealed a set of marble white fangs and teeth. It is strange to hear a father waking up and asking to see me. She said, oh, he wasn't asking to see you. Farron said. The apathetic look in her eyes slowly turned to a glare. Farron simply bowed lightly with a hand on his chest. He merely asked for you to be present to witness the situation that is about to unfold, Farron said, while looking with one eye to see how she reacts. Her reaction was more disappointed than before. Whatever it is, I am not interested, she replied, returning back to the shadows. It is the criminal named Krylin who kidnapped the princess and sabotaged the domain, Farron said, finally seeing a reaction on Serana's face. What of him? She asked. We are capturing him. It was natural for the vampires to react to John's presence. He knew that once he arrives at Cold Harbor, things will start to get hectic. What happened next then? The moment John walked out of the pyramid-like construct that is the Black Forge, he found himself surrounded by a legion of vampires and death hounds. Nothing is worse than a vampire other than a vampire with a dog, an undead, non-fluffy dog, such an unforgivable existence. Criminal, our Lord requests your presence in Castle Fokihar. The vampire leading the others spoke. John tilted his head a little, looking at the vampire up and down. Always wondered who's going to show up. Turns out Harkon does not see me in his eyes, and sent some goons instead," John said, glaring around at those who dare treat him as prey. "Oomph," the vampire snorted. "Our Lord said to invite you in, mortal. He didn't say anything about severing your arms and legs and dragging you back to the castle." "Hold on." John raised his hand. The vampires cluelessly felt threatened by the malicious intent they felt from John as he spoke, but for some reason, they kept listening. "You, even for a side character, just gave me a great idea. Severing arms and legs, that is such a thing. All right, motherfuckers, let's dance." And he phase shifted right in front of them. It was unforeseen for the vampires, as they didn't expect one man to simply charge at 100 of them. He was simply seeking death for sure. But for some reason, he wasn't alone. He was followed by that large bone undead and that strange black matter, and a strange minotaur who was breathing fire, and that flying staff that kept shooting magic on its own, and that were beast cat that appears, disappears, and clearly has a visible resentment against the Death Hounds. It was supposed to be only one guy, and they would charge and capture him, but the vampire leader found himself being held up from the neck with a strange inability to move his limbs. That was all a thing, and when a strange creature with a Daedric aura, 2 mighty horns, showed up, the vampires around were almost annihilated at a terrifying rate. John smiled vividly behind his mask as he rested Bloodskull on his shoulder with the arms and legs of the vampire he is holding dropping on the ground. "If you want my opinion, I'd say you guys are mortals as well. Nothing suggests you can live after a blade skewers you through." "Why? You will." Yeah, thought as much." John stabbed the vampire and cut him in half, permanently killing him once and for all. "I'm truly disappointed in you, Harkon. I truly am." John spoke normally, yet his voice echoed in the vicinity. And who would have thought his taunting worked? All of a sudden, not only a mere 100 this time around, but literal thousands upon thousands of vampires. It was the entire Fokihar clan and their lord, Harkon Fokihar himself. All right, John looked around thinking that he might have pushed his luck this time around. "It is good to see you, everyone." His gesture of goodwill was met with even more glares, yet no one dared to do a thing with Harkon present. Harkon was present among all his lieutenants. He was tall. Not as tall as John, but still fairly standing out among the crowd, which wore an identical gothic vampiric uniform. He was silent, yet his rage was visible in his glowing eyes. His beard and hair may look neat, but his hidden expressions started to affect them, making him look like a maddened demon. "Daughter, that's the one who captured you." "Yes, father. And here she is. Serana." She gazed coldly at John, whom she never wanted to see again. A fool would go against her father, a damn fool would do it twice, an ultra-damn fool would come without heeding her warning. "Oh, it is you cute little fangs," John said boldly, smiling but knowing that no one will see it. He had to be polite enough to remove the mask himself. "Long time no see." It was a bit stressful for Serana to see John boldly acting like that, not that she cared. Now, her father knows that it was all a lie. She stole a glance at her father, only to see him even calmer than before. He was even faintly smiling. Wait, he knew all along. Serana knew this moment would come, but to think it was there all along. John should be smiling back. Serana was baffled by this situation, but she didn't make it appear on her face. She raised her chin, showing superiority to the rest of those who were just learning of the fact of her lie while watching what John was about to do next. The damn rascal wasn't even looking at Harkon anymore. His eyes were glued on her, as if he could see beyond her crimson silk dress, judging by the dirty smile on his face. "Cute little fangs, I think I love that dress." He spoke. Indeed, he was surrounded by every vampire of the Fokihar clan, and all he did was lust for their princess in front of her father. If that wasn't dare, then no one would know what else is. In such a situation, even Serana was conflicted. She risked life and limb to leave him a message in the Hollow City, telling him to leave everything and flee to the ends of Tamriel. But he didn't only come back, but even stood in front of her father speaking nonsense. It seemed her gesture of goodwill was not appreciated, the feeling that made her very disappointed. Enough wasting time. At that moment, Harkon seemed to have run out of patience. He raised his hand, and an incredible force filled the space around him. That force rushed towards John, seeking him, surrounding him, claiming his will, and breaking any resistance he may offer. Just as it did touch him, it started to disappear. It was as if a large river suddenly met a bottomless pit. The river is stubborn and strong, aiming to fill the pit and pass over it, but the pit's simply passive and receiving whatever it throws, as if there is no limit. "Are you done?" John asked. Looking at his eyes, things no longer looked normal over there. They were black, eternal pitch black that would swallow all the light. No matter how Harkon tries to destroy John's ability to fight back, John would simply defy all sorts of power. He would even become more resilient with time. It was when the river realized that there is no filling this limitless pit. 3 years, 3 mortal years. Harkon spoke not angry, but as if he was proud of John. "You used to be something akin to a worm. Now look at you." Harkon's rage intensified and showed more signs of old age, which were not a usual thing for a vampire, as it defies the whole purpose of vampirism. But Harkon kept the dignified appearance of the king he used to be. The monster inside him lived too long in solitude, and now it felt the presence of another. He was one of the few whose rage and excitement were one and the same. "Look at me." John finally paid attention to Harkon. "Do I look like a man with no plan to you?" Harkon felt even more defiance from John this time. "Plan? Only those who are weak seek such a thing. Against the absolute, all plans are futile, all schemes are in vain, all resistance is a waste of time," he said. "Is that so?" John asked. "It is, child. It is. You will learn. You are a child of fate, just like me, but whatever the fate you have, it will not be equal scaring the eye of the dragon." Harkon said those last 3 words as he suddenly appeared in front of John, and with a single swoop of his hand, clank, hit something metallic. "It took me a while to create this while I was waiting for you. How do you think of my craftsmanship?" John spoke, but where is here? Serana looked around only to see a hand gently coming from behind and holding her chin while its thumb playfully caressed her lower lip. It was a mystery how this hand reached her, but his presence was very clear behind her. Her father is right. John seemed to have grown since that time. He has grown drastically. But what kind of growth is that? 3 years, and he is able to look at her father in the eye and exchange word for word? This isn't what she thought would happen. Meanwhile, Harkon was both baffled by John's actions and by the sturdiness of the thing he just hit. The creature was large and insanely sturdy. Even a full power swing from Harkon didn't scratch it. "This thing is your craftsmanship, nigh indestructible." Zykel, whose body is now made of one of the toughest metals in existence, has successfully stopped a full blow from Harkon. He was incredibly pissed at John and wanted to screw him over, but Harkon was in his way. Blinded with his anger, Zykel held the arm Harkon hit him with, and Zykel started flying for some reason. Back on the ground level, Harkon, who seemed to have flung his arm, looked back unamused at John. "He's still the same damn idiot, though. I guess I should work on him from inside next time." John self-monologued as his other hand started to slip through Serana's dress. Serana stiffened in fright, while Harkon frowned, and the rest of the vampires could no longer tolerate this. "Catch that mortal," Harkon said, but he didn't even need to say much, as every vampire in the vicinity was on to John the moment he appeared behind Serana anyway. Still, tear. John was molesting Serana, or anything but rather, he tore off her blood-crimson silk dress. "Art!" Serana groaned from pain, as if her flesh was being torn away from her. That moment, every vampire was a split of a second away before John phase shifts far away once again. In his hand, he appeared with the crimson silk dress that is now torn. It was such a beautiful dress, but from inside, it looked horrible, as if it was made of some organs and blood. It seemed that this damn thing has stuck itself on Serana for some time now. "No, give it back." She has fallen on her knees, Her body was torn with strange injuries, but she seemed to not be minding any of it. As many of the vampires gathered around in order to protect her, Harkon showed a hint of surprise and bafflement. He recognized the accursed aura of this red dress she was wearing, but he didn't know it was a piece of that thing. Cute little fangs, I am sorry to have burdened you with such a thing. Gluttony is not your sin to bear. No, she felt very weakened, but she couldn't stop. It is, I want it. This was an unexpected development on all fronts. John knew that this accursed thing will still be alive somehow, and he expected Serana to bring it to him, but not in this way. The blood vine that grew on him ever since that time he was trapped in a briarheart tree. This vine mutated so many times that it became a parasite that feeds on him. That's right, a parasite. John used the fact that the root has become a parasite in order to eat away all the power of Harkon's domain, and while Harkon thought that he got rid of this thing long ago, Serana took a part of it for herself. She fed that parasite on her own blood and cultivated it on her body. It came to feed on her, yet at the same time, it gave her strange powers and made her immune to most of the side effects of vampirism. After all, it fed on the domain of a vampire lord for almost a year. This thing, it is very compatible with vampires and made it perfect enough for a vampire to cultivate her powers even more, but they had to share this power with that thing. Yet there is one major flaw. This living object only answers to one person and one person only. Is that man? As the master leaves the dog tied somewhere, the dog will always keep up its duties, for that's what dogs are good for, and until the master arrives, the dog will wag its tail to anyone who feeds it, but it always remembers the first hand that fed it as the master. John said as he tore the dress apart, even making it shriek rather than the sound of ripped fabrics. The vampires wouldn't let John have his way either, and no matter what he says and does, the orders were to apprehend him even on the cost of their lives. Just as a couple of vampires charged in at John in a swarm of bats, the bloody dress in John's hand started to suddenly merge with his arms. The vampires caught John and started digging their teeth into his neck and arms, but it was as if they were biting metal. The look on John's face changed. The artifacts he let out, and even Jax and the fallen Zykel were all swept in the shadow of Nefertiti as she retreated inside John's cube after she saw his grin turn into a vicious expression. And he disappeared. He vanished. Even the vampires holding him couldn't feel him anymore. So, his sound came from somewhere unknown, no matter where everyone looked. This is the power of a daughter of Cold Harbor. The statement itself was ominous, and the chilling vibes it gave made the vampires realize that they were playing John's game all along. Without any warning, those two vampires who just attacked John were lifted in the air, and as they struggled, one of them was bitten by the neck, and like a bag of juice, he was shrunk from inside in an instant, as if he was emptied from his content. The same thing happened with the second vampire, but this time, the identity of the thing holding him up and turning him into a husk appeared. The only thing familiar about that thing was the red hair and the blue eyes, which are identical to John's, but the body itself was not that of a human. No one could help but to compare this thing to John. John was 7 feet tall, but this thing is 8. John had smooth skin, but this thing had a network of blood vessels covering him. John was the self-proclaimed most handsome young man on Tamriel, but this is the stuff of nightmares with its irregular bone structure and undefined body. The second vampire was sucked dry and crumbled into dust at the feet of that thing. It had its irregular long tongue lick away all the blood traces on his lips as he looked around to the other vampires like a wolf eyeing a herd of sheep, and its voice gave the shivers to the world around him as he said, "Oh, how the turns have tabled. Gluttony, Briarheart vampiric essence. Gorse servant. S and Discord URL. Linkter. EE/Donovel. Chapter 572, Glutton-Free. Shout out to all these amazing people. At Benjamin House. At Ian Spear. At Successus. At Michael Crandall. Bang! The sound of something soft hitting against metal echoed in the surrounding space. Each hit was followed with an amount of force that would break the back of a mammoth, but the weird material of the floor withstood it very well. Blood splattered across the place as the next hit came down, and pieces of living flesh started to fly, then join up together like liquid quicksilver. Nefertiti would hurriedly jump in, collect those pieces of flesh in a glass container, then escape before the next hit lands. At the center of the scene, the body of a young man was simply kneeling down from exhaustion with blades, spears, arrows, and all manners of metal fragments were sticking out of it. With his normal arm, he held the last piece of strange flesh from his other arm and slammed the ground so hard that a mountain would split. Eventually, that piece of flesh flew off, and Nefertiti collected it in time before it would jump back on John. This motherfucker is troublesome as fuck. John held his body, remembering the senseless pain he just put himself through. The fifth deadly sin, gluttony, probably the most troublesome of the bunch. He can't imagine creating envy or sloth to be as unruly as gluttony. Human, all gathered. Nefertiti showed up in her human form, standing beside John, while holding a large glass jar reinforced with dwarven metal on its ends with a living lump of flesh trying to break free from inside. John took the jar and held up his middle finger. Fuck you. John threw the jar away, then literally removed a blade that was going through his torso as he clenched hard from the pain. You shifted your organs again? Nefertiti asked. It was a risk I was willing to take. He replied with a cool wink. Unamused, she pulled out a spearhead from his shoulder. Ouch. No, you shouldn't. He howled from the pain, causing her to panic, and stabbed the spearhead back where it was. The pain was even more mind-shattering, but John kept it in and smiled, telling her to move away and leave it to him. As soon as she took cover far on the other side of the room, John stood up and focused his inner energy in his core before slowly expanding it in. Bam! A strong shockwave came from inside as every single piece of weapon piercing him flew out like bullets, and his body recovered at a rapid rate. His overflowing vigor manifested in his steam rising from his diabolical muscle structure as he started cracking his joint to relieve the tension. This body of yours isn't immortal yet. At that point, Zykel approached John with caution. Eternal, not immortal. Immortality is a soul thing, but eternal bodies are ones that never experience degradation in their genetic mutations. So unless completely destroyed beyond recovery, my life will never be extinguished. John explained. Isn't that immortality? Zykel didn't seem to get it. In a way, maybe. Immortality itself is when you are impossible to be extinguished even without a body, and your soul reaches a degree of invincibility that is beyond what is possibly describable. This thing you call immortality of the Daedra creatures is basically being stuck in a circle of reincarnation that is fashioned for lesser souls that are easy to manage and manipulate. This sounds confusing. Zykel tried to scratch his chin with his metallic fingers, but his metallic skin caused the scratch to make a spark. He looked between himself and his head, then looked at Dawn. I told you, easy to manipulate. I just gave you an unbreakable body, and I thought you can hold your damn ground against a dragon only to find you being tossed around by a damn vampire. What? This damn body you gave me is as painful as sleeping with a Daedra from Apocrypha, and the vampire that tossed me around is a vampire lord no less. No excuses. I'm starting to rethink my investment in you. Don't you feel ashamed? John acted as if he was wronged all of a sudden. Wah, you shameless mortal. You made me do all those horrible things. There is no human as evil as you are. An innocent Daedra like me was... Shut your damn mouth. Never try to sully my good name. John kicked Zykel out of his sanctuary and returned to taking care of his body. His cunning action, to put the blame of being useless on Zykel before the latter finds some trouble with him for the reforging process he made him go through, was a textbook bad boss move. Still, he gave Zykel a formidable defense ability and 2 dragon horns, Through that, he created the perfect meat shield. The two dragon horns have a use that only Jon was aware of, but he kept to himself for the time being. Still, the million septims question is, what in Oblivion happened between Jon and the vampires in Oblivion? Jon wanted to take on Harkon in a 1v1, but Harkon seemed to be insisting on making it an honorable 1000v1, which Jon instantly agreed to. Seeing a horde of vampires attacking him from left, right, up, down, ahead, and from the back, Jon used the power of gluttony and preyed on the vampires before they could prey on him. In truth, his appearance when he combines himself with gluttony is like nothing in this world. His outer appearance was extreme even for a vampire, and gluttony was very strong in comparison to any known metal. It withstood the blows of any army, but like all living things, it has a limit to its stamina. The flaw of gluttony is its hunger to devour Jon himself. Back when Jon was captured by the Forsworn and was offered to the Briarheart Grove, he escaped by feeding on the grove rather than making the grove feed on him. The accursed Briarheart trees were already mature, so they couldn't cope with Jon acting as a parasite on their powers, but only a small immature part of the tree managed to evolve thanks to Jon and leached on him, becoming a parasite on the parasite. This small parasite sealed away most of Jon's abilities and couldn't be removed except by the interference of a Daedric prince, the thing which compromised Jon to the vampires of Fokihar and led to the early awakening of Serana. In order to escape, Jon used the parasite to sabotage the energy of the vampire's realm. Serana was aware of Jon's plan and assisted him against her father. Her father's long-life dream would turn every creature in the world against the vampires of all clans and kinds the way how things happened 2,000 years ago with the All-Flags Navy when the Slodes of Thraz tried to kill all life on Tamriel with a plague. In truth, the only reason Serana asked Jon to escape was never a mutual interest, but rather to foil her father's plan. Even Jon knew that. What Jon didn't know till yesterday was how Serana got attached to the Briarheart parasite. This takes him back to that moment. That moment when he was surrounded by vampires and being attacked from every corner like some boss monster, which was actually true judging by the things he did. Not only did gluttony give him powers similar to a vampire, but it has a beast form of its own. It still had the same suppressive force which sealed away his magic and aura, but it had an alternative array of magic channels to it. If Jon used it right, he will access some powers that are not humanly possible. In truth, this upgrade was unexpected to Jon, but still a welcome one. What I don't understand is how it could become so vampiric. I knew gluttony would not perish easily, since it had parts of my living soul in it, and I would be able to recover it even if it was turned to dust, but I never thought someone would be able to influence it other than me. Jon said and turned around. How could you do it? Bang. Beyond the unbreakable enchanted glass cell, a terrifying monstrosity of a young woman banged on it with her arm. Her body was naked, full of scratches, and her face was turning hideous with her body becoming gray and rigid. Give it up, Serana. It won't break. Bang crack. Damn. As the glass broke, it started to slowly recover once again, which made her more infuriated. Serana was indeed captured and put in a test cell. It may sound odd, but the one that did the most damage against the vampires yesterday was not Jon, but rather her. The moment Jon ripped that crimson dress of hers caused every bloodstream in her body to be ripped with it. She did something to herself using gluttony, and once it was separated from her, it didn't take long for her to fall into hysteria and start raging out. The trance she went into was so strong that she kept running toward Jon like a madwoman, and Jon kept avoiding and killing vampires as he escaped from her in gluttony's beast mode. She didn't even differentiate between her allies and attacked her father when he tried to stop her. Lord Harkon entered his vampire lord form immediately and summoned Forbidden Sun to attack both Jon and Serana, but what he didn't account for happened next, as Jon used both Serana and Harkon as a distraction for one another and opened a portal to escape before pulling Serana into the Haven Cube. He traveled from Cold Harbor to the myriad realms of revelry, and from there to Quagmire, then opened various portals and escaped in a random one to find himself in some strange realm of frozen wastelands. He kept expanding his escapes through various portals until he returned back to Cold Harbor as it became all empty. From there, he opened a portal back to Nirn. With Serana being uncontrollable, she seemed to have grown tired inside a room with sealed glass that can't be broken as it perfectly redirects all the shocks it receives. So, cute little fangs, can we please get me out? She was not in the mood to be spoken to, especially with someone as way too chill as John. I just wanted to say, give it back. Give it back. It's mine. No matter what he says, she seemed to have been overwhelmed with some sort of insanity. John recovered the sealing jar, which Gluttony was trapped in, and observed it closely. The strange living lump of flesh was frantically moving, trying to do anything. It would turn into liquor blood for some time, then it would become some silk-like fiber in the next. In truth, is highly unstable. John observed both Serana and Gluttony. Gluttony is a parasite that makes Serana as a host, but if the host shows such symptoms, it can only mean addiction. It was the truth that John didn't even get to fathom in a second or two of realization. He kept looking at Serana, who was banging her forehead on the glass until it broke and actually injured her, just as she became injured and blood seeped down from her forehead. John watched her as she slowly saw her blood on the glass and started licking it like an animal, but from what he could tell from her expressions, it didn't even make her satisfied at all. In his cube space, John had plenty of things. Basically, all his tools and secret notes were stored in here. He hurriedly started going through his late belongings and recovered a blood potion, something as good as a human for vampires. He tried to offer a bit of the potion to Serana in a cup, but her reaction was, "Filth, get this away from me." She raged and didn't calm down, and until she noticed Gluttony sealed in its jar not too far from her glass cell. She kept focusing on it, as if trying to say something. John observed her as she focused almost too hard before breaking into frustration once again. It doesn't listen. It doesn't. This, John observed her closer and tilted his head. Fascinating. A daughter of Cold Harbor, the highest rank a vampire may ever attain, and to see her reduced to a mere junkie. Even John couldn't help but have a moment in that suffering she was going through. Hey, he snapped his fingers to gain her attention. Frantically, she moved her eyes towards him, then her body almost instantly before glaring at him murderously. You. She banged her arm against the glass once again and spoke. Give. Back. It doesn't want to come. It doesn't want you anymore. It wants me. John replied apathetically. No. Her expressions turned disheartened as John could almost read all the sadness on her face. Cute little fangs. Serana, I'm truly sorry. She was having an existential crisis of sorts. John could understand why. In fact, he knew some of her suffering, some of the things she doesn't usually say. She's just a big child with fangs and claws. Another broken soul. All right, why don't we try this one out? John said as he brought another cup and started filling it with the content of the blood potion. No. It doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It makes me sick. Serana now can be the first vampire ever seen to reject the blood. Her sight was miserable to behold. Don't worry. I'm just going to try something that may give you a little boost, John said as he finished pouring the blood into the cup. He then slowly hovered with his finger above the cup, and a small wound opened up on the tip of his finger without even the need of using a blade. A small amount of his blood started to gather around his finger and slowly and carefully dropped into the cup of blood. The sensation around his single drop of blood was insane. John has reached the pinnacle of humanity in terms of the physique, so his blood is insanely powerful. He slowly carried the cup, put in the hatch under the glass shield, and bypassed it towards Serana. No, it is not going to work. It is. She kept saying so and holding her head in pain, but the moment she felt the scent of blood, her instincts rushed in, and before she could even realize, the blood was running down her throat. Seeing her react in that fashion, seeing herself react in this fashion, it was both of a shock and a romance to John. Oh my, oh my. John crouched down in front of Serana, who was on all four looking at him in astonishment. What just happened? She asked. It seems, John touched his lower lip while thinking, then turned around for gluttony, which was still sealed. It seems that this little shit can reproduce the effect of my blood. While my blood can take over the minds of lower vampires, a daughter of Cold Harbor can become addicted if she was exposed to it for, let's say, a year. John raised a very mind-boggling question, but he was sure this was the right answer. He recovered gluttony inside the jar and raised it in front of Serana. Looks like we have to get you glutton-free. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.